just to have some noise here at the start of the video until I find some music to play. And then I'll get the chat window ready to go and it'll be time to start. So let's see, YouTube Studio and Audio Library. Let's see. How about Bobby Richards, Prism, Dance and Electronic, Dramatic. Yeah, I like this one. I like it. Go to Instagram. Oh, right. Chat window. Scott Maurer, so I hear we've had a Dermot sighting. Did you hear that on Facebook?
Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Dermot. Yes, I can hear you.
Is my audio fine? Sorry, I couldn't.
Yeah, sounds pretty good.
Good.
Got some computer fan noises, it sounds like, but there's not a lot that can be done about that in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I'm talking to you on with audio because my girlfriend teaches. She's on a Zoom meeting in the other room, and we have a very weak internet connection. So.
Okay. Well, you said she teaches just until noon your time?
Yeah, about that. So I'll know when she's out of there.
Okay.
And then we can try the video. And,
cool.
Yeah, it's a dodgy setup here.
Well, I've been charged with creating a new biopic for my for the Geb website that's just being updated. So that's my first project today. Can you see the stream? Can you see what's going on?
I can see your face.
You're probably seeing my face on Zoom, though.
Oh, okay. So it's going to, let me check. If you hear a cat in the background, that's a 20-year-old cat who is at the end of her life, so we're spoiling her. Yeah, she's a monster.
Well, I have a 15-year-old cat here who's asleep, or she's watching the squirrels video that I have on. Let's see. Oh, no, she's definitely not asleep. I have one of those cat videos on. It's just images of squirrels shot in the park, and she's glued to the tube watching that.
Okay.
All
right.
right.
So let me see your YouTube feed.
And there's already somebody in the chat, Scott Maurer, who has been on the program. He's been on the C-Realm Vault at least, and maybe the main C-Realm podcast, and he's joined me here on the live stream before. We've done simultaneous live drawing. And he says, yes, on Facebook, Dermot has been spotted or sighted. I hear we've had a Dermot sighting.
I tried to keep a low profile because of everything being so crazy now.
Yeah.
I should be lower profile than I am, to be honest.
Well, you can't get much more low profile than these live streams of mine. It's like 3 people who regularly show up in the chat, and 3 or 4 who are occasionals, but it's a pretty tight group.
Oh, hi, Scott.
Okay, so you can see the chat now, it sounds like.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm picking up my stylus again, returning to this task. But hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, and it's a crazy ass year. So, what's up?
Bizarre year. Gosh, it's mental. I think we spoke the last time that the only thing keeping me sane now is planning my trip back to Ireland.
Yes,
one way.
One way.
Because I think what really did it, if anything did it for me this year, it was getting a fire alert from the city of Portland saying that we could have like a very serious fire event inside the city. All it would have taken was long electrical arc, and we had wind gusts, and we don't have a car. And there's no way I'm out running a 50-mile-an-hour bus with pushing the fire behind it. And so for the first time in my life, hardcore doomer, I had certainly at one point, less so now, but when you go, maybe I should have stayed hardcore doomer. I ended up making a bug out bag. We have 4 cats, and how am I going to get these animals out of here? We have plans. Okay, this cat goes in that bag, this cat goes in this bag, and we have a park that's like a quarter mile. Maybe we can run like a quarter, depending on the fire and where it's coming from.
Was there a stream in the park or something like that?
No, but there was a fire station, so that was a good thing. And that was the best we could come up with. So I'm thinking, what the hell with this? Seriously, I'm done. And that was people make a big deal about the riots here, and they weren't half as bad as certain news networks would have you believe.
Of course.
But it still wasn't nice to hear drum and have that spy plane flying overhead in circles. We could see it from our walks. We could see this creepy little plane flying, spying on all the protesters. And that wasn't fun. And you just know too that there's when the feds came in, apparently they sprayed some toxic chemical on the crowds. There's carcinogenic and harmful to wildlife as well. It's just the hell with it. And
but Dermot,
I keep thinking,
Dermot, Joe Biden's just been elected. He and Kamala Harris are going to usher in a golden age. You're going to miss out, man. This is the time.
Oh yeah. I think best case
all of our
scenario,
miseries are about to end.
The campaign slogan is, "What do we want? Managerial competence. When do we want it? Now." It's like Keir Starmer in Britain leading the Labour Party. It's just not good enough. And I think best case scenario, they'll just keep the jalopy going for another few miles before the wheels fall off.
That's their campaign promise. I mean, that was the slogan for the whole campaign. Nothing will fundamentally change.
Yeah. And I see all the lefty types on Facebook now being shocked that he's appointing Monsanto drones to his cabinet. And what did you think he was going to do? And I really wonder about the mental age of some of these people. Like, we're going to have to push Biden to the left. And like, yes, good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Do you follow?
I don't think
you follow Jimmy Dore at all?
I've seen a few of his videos, but I haven't watched many.
He was on Rising today, explaining his plan to get, that the progressives have this one shining moment right now, that they have some leverage, and they can get Nancy Pelosi to bring a vote to the floor of the House of Representatives on Medicare for all, and we'll just get a frickin' tally of who says yes and who says no, because voters want Medicare for all, and Democrats who vote against it, they're gone. At the next election, they're out. So call for a vote. Call for a vote. See who's where. See who stands with whom.
Yeah. I saw somebody posted, Caitlin Johnston is like great. She posts a lot of stuff. Just puts in the bullshit. And
she's a little too pro-China for my taste, but I do like her quite a bit.
Yeah. It was at the heart of someone like her who posted a video of Hillary Clinton, and this is 4 or 8 or 12 years ago, talking about the banks and how we should reform the banks. And she says to the crowd, yeah, but if we do reform the banks, will that stop racism? And the crowd goes, no. Will that stop sexism? And the crowd goes, no. So we shouldn't reform the banks, And I was just, what the hell? I mean, what the fuck? So the second some corporate tool or some identity politician wants to make it about vice and virtue, you've lost. And once the people buy that crap, you've lost. Because it's like the war on terror. You're never going to win it because you can't win a war on terror. It's in reverse.
And until racism is gone for good, banished from the heart of every Neanderthal on the planet, we can have no structural reform of anything at all.
Yeah. It's incredible. And whereas my attitude would be more like a hard left attitude, which is change the goddamn system so that it doesn't matter if the people working in it are racist or not. Don't leave it up to their personal choice.
Exactly. Yep. I'm with you. Uh-oh. You've gone quiet, Dermot. I may have lost you.
Have I? I'm still here.
Okay, great.
Sometimes these, the audio drops go to zero and it feels like it.
So Scott Maurer just reminded us in the chat that he was at my speaking tour date in Portland way back in 2013, and there was a party after. Did you go to that after party, Dermot?
That's right. We met there.
Yeah,
and I met Scott too, and I think I met Scott like a time after that too. If I remember right.
Yeah, because he was living in Portland at the time.
Yes.
In a yurt. In somebody's yard.
I passed that coffee shop sometimes on the way, and it's like, oh yeah, that seems like a long time ago.
Well, I'm glad it's still open.
Hope so. Yeah. A lot of the small coffee shops are hanging in because they can do takeout. But and some of the restaurants are still hanging in, but it's tight.
Well, my gym just closed, so I am bummed out. It just closed its doors under this management for good. Because go ahead.
There's a guy in England. He's a bit of a right-wing guy. I kind of like him though. He's very conservative, and he has like property, and business. But you get a lot of good information from those guys. And he does videos where he walks around the city of London, and he goes, "Don't believe the stories about the booming economy and how everything is holding on." And he said, "Look, close, board it up." And you go up to where they put these like fake facades up to make it look like they're still sort of hanging in, and they peek through, and it's empty inside. There's no product, and there's nothing. And entire streets are just boarded up. It's depressing. I'm not like big business type and stuff either, but you hate to see, all the people thrown on the curb.
Yeah. with my gym, there's two gyms in town. One is for young people, and it focuses more on classes, things like spin and Zumba and yoga and stuff. And the other gym is for old people. I mean, it's not for old people, but that's the clientele, is senior citizens for the most part. Like at 52, I'm one of the younger faces in there most days. And the old people, as soon as the COVID scare went out, they all quit going to the gym. They all quit paying their membership dues, which I thought was, just pretty gross. Because don't you want the gym to be there when COVID's over? You can afford to continue paying your monthly dues. You're not poor. You can afford to pay for this, even if you're not going to use it out of fear.
Absolutely.
But so I mentioned that to the proprietor. I said, this is the attitude that I would appreciate if people would take. And he told me that not only did the old folks stop going, many of them demanded a refund for the unused portion of the month that they'd already paid for.
Well, I just don't get that.
It's like, you use this place. Don't you want it to be here?
Yeah.
Are you going to sacrifice this local business so that you can save $47 a month or whatever you're paying?
Incredible. Yeah. No, I we have whenever we do go to our coffee shop, not go as often as we used to, but whenever I go, it's always like a $3 tip. There's a donut shop up the street, and we can get a couple of donuts for $1.80 or $2, and every time $3 tip. That's just my default tip. I'm paying more in tips than I am for coffee and donuts.
Right on.
And that's hopefully going to the employees, and
well, if you put it right in the employee's hand, or in their tip jar, it's going to them.
Yeah. No, it's and I don't understand that kind of. I guess I'm a natural communistic person. I don't understand that, like, me first, fuck you mentality.
Well, it doesn't even take a shred of altruism, to just look a few months into the future. This pandemic is not permanent. Things will come back, and you want this gym to be here. When you're willing to leave your house again.
Or at least say to them, look, I'm going to keep paying, but I'd like a fucking discount when things go back to normal, or some way to like a thank you or whatever. Give me a month free when things go back to normal, and you can pay your rent again. It's just that, I don't know, laissez-faire attitude towards it. Like everything is like, the price of everything and the value of nothing.
Yep, absolutely. Price of everything, value of nothing. Okay, move on to happy topics. Are there any? Do you know of any happy topics?
In most respects, I guess I've been lucky. Like, I'm not sick, or I'm chugging vitamin D like it's potato chips. But before I forget, I'll chug that out.
I'm probably deficient in that department.
If that works or not, but I'm reading a lot of articles about it showing correlation between keeping your vitamin D levels up and not getting seriously ill. So, hoping just into that. So I'm taking about 3,000 IU a day, and I've read other sites where they say you can take 4 or 5. Like there's European countries where they just give out 5,000 a day, and it's almost impossible to overdose on it. So that's what I've been at, and you can't really do any harm. It's the kind of the depression pill as well when people get depressed. Apparently it helps with seasonal adjusted depression, which I don't suffer from. But anyway, so we'll see. Scott says, what happened to your History of Science illustration project in the chat there? I put that on kind of a permanent hold. It began to spook me a little bit, because you begin reading so much kind of cancel crap online. Now, bear in mind, this is a project that is directly aimed at debunking racism and isms in general. And I got some very hostile reactions to some test pages from liberal women, and because they said, "I see there's no women in your project." I think we should establish as a baseline going forward that I'm not responsible for things that happened before I was born.
Oh, yes, you are. And you're a white male.
I would really, really like that to not be held personally accountable for gender relations empirically in Athens. I think that's unfair. And that's a very dangerous legal precedent to establish. So I thought, if I do this project, there's a very real chance I'm going to be accused by somebody of something. And I just don't have the energy to put so much time and effort into this project if that is the almost inevitable outcome.
Well, that is the inevitable outcome.
Oh yeah,
you don't need almost. That's assured.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, absolutely. Somebody will hate it for some reason, and if I do bring it out, I might do it under a different title and under a pseudonym, and hopefully nobody will get the connection with me. There's not that much of it out there anyway, and so I might be able to do it and get away with it. Maybe wait until I'm about to die or something. But it was just it was very, very upsetting actually to get those reactions, like quite hostile, like really personal. And these are people who've known me for years.
Oh wow! Not just trolling.
And they've seen me like,
wow.
They've seen me going at racist on the old ATOC forum, and they know exactly who I am. They're not people who just see me as some anonymous dude. And I've got sweat equity into all that crap. It was kind of depressing, but I'm not ruling out finishing it at some point in the future. But the other problem with it too is the more I read, the more I realize I have to change things in, and you end up just having to like rewrite. And I think I'll get to the point now where I kind of have a grip on it. But unlike some people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Stephen Hawking who don't know anything about the subject and publish books because they think they're geniuses, I know enough to know that it's a very fractal subject matter, like the history of science and philosophy and ontology and all this. And I keep finding new websites that more or less tell me, okay, I'm in the right ballpark, but then you see other things to go, it's even more complex. And the problem you get then is if you simplify things too much, you falsify them. And that's the problem with pop histories of science. Apologies for yet another cat jumping around. The pop histories of science are garbage. They absolutely give you a false narrative of, then it was Copernicus, then it was Kepler, then it was Galileo, blah, blah. No, it's like insanely complicated. There's one guy who runs a website called the Renaissance Mathematicus, Tony Christie. And he's got like a 25-part series on the history of astronomy, and it's mind-boggling. I haven't even gone near it yet. It's like, oh Christ, I will when I have to, but not yet. And it's given me respect for the subject. But the sad thing is, there are people out there winning Pulitzers who have written about this stuff who don't have respect for it and who write rubbish and win prizes. And so I guess part of me should just suck it up and finish it. It's really funny when you're trying to attack comic book histories of the history of science with a comic book. It is ironic. But I've seen the kind of hate mail that other people who write these kind of debunks get, and Jesus, you have to have a lot of psychic energy to deal with a lot of this nonsense. But yeah, myth busting is incredible. So many myths as well. Like I found a wonderful website, and the guy that writes it, he's a prodigy. He's 21. I called Spencer, I forget his surname. And he's like, some of the myths, oh my God, like Roman soldiers were not paid with salt. That's just stupid.
They're not paid with what?
Salt. The old myth that Roman soldiers were paid with salt, and that's why the saying is, oh, it's worth with salt. Absolutely bullshit. And apparently there was one account which said that soldiers were paid with the tax revenues from the salt trade, which is a very different thing than handing Gludius Maximus, here's your 32, here's your payment. It's not silver denarii that you can hold in your hand and go to the brothel with. No, we're going to give you 32 pounds of salt and you're going to carry it around the hot desert. He'd kill you. There's no way. But that's just tip of the iceberg. And I can go into this site and, oh my God, there's so much garbage that we have floating around in our heads. And so I'm still scared that I've got some more garbage that I have to put in.
So we've got some action in the chat here. Les from Poland has showed up.
Mhm.
And what does Les say? KMO was critical of me because I take pride in never taking a government handout taken from the pockets of taxpayers as a matter of principle. Huh. Was I? I don't recall that conversation. Let's see. Scott says, the pseudonym idea sounds like a great idea. I'd hate to see all that amazing work wasted. Well, the style is pretty recognizable to me. I don't think a pseudonym's going to be much of a shield. Leslick says, and for the sake of society, churches, temples, mosques, communities, family, and friends should be for that. And SM says, hello from Istanbul. Well, hello, SM. Hello from, where am I? Vermont. What else we got here? Les says, Copernicus wasn't completely correct, actually, and that's because the sun itself travels around the center of the galaxy every 200 million years or so. But got to give credit to Copernicus. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I deal with those two comments about Copernicus while waiting for dying? Both of those are myths. The Copernican heliocentric model still used perfect circles, epicycles, and equants in all the Ptolemaic kludges. And it wasn't until Kepler's elliptical orbits came in that the actual system was discovered. Copernicus used all kinds of material from Islamic scholars like Al-Tusi. It was Al-Tusi couplets, Al-Tusi couples, as well as the other Islamic genre Al-Shatir. But it was still a very problematic system, and it also conjured into existence a moving Earth. This invoked other problems that violated Occam's razor. Stellar parallax: if the Earth moves around the sun, the background vault of heaven, the stars, should move every 6 months. They don't. Stellar parallax wasn't discovered until the early 1800s. It also causes physics problems. They had no theory of gravity as we understand it, so they were perfectly justified in being skeptical of a planet moving that fast, not only around the sun, but if they known it was also moving around the galaxy, why the hell aren't we flying out into space into the void? So these were issues that weren't resolved for a very long time. Also, Copernicus was not afraid of the church. He didn't wait until he wasn't being afraid of burned at the stake. There was no problem with the medieval church or the church of his time with what he wrote. That's a much more complex story that comes in with Galileo. And I can provide like a 7,000 links that will validate that. It's a very persistent and ugly myth. There was all kinds of really amazing ideas in the medieval period about astronomy. The multiplicity of worlds was hypothesized by Nicholas of Cusa about 150 years, I think, before Bruno. And he was punished by the Catholic Church by being made a cardinal. So the idea, Galileo's observations of the phases of Jupiter, I think, or the moons of Jupiter and the phases of Venus, were replicated by the Jesuits, and they punished Galileo by throwing him a banquet in the Vatican. So this story is beyond complex, and the fable of Galileo being tortured by the evil church, again, it's a myth. I'm not saying that they weren't bothered by the way that whole thing was dealt with, especially by Galileo. He was his own worst enemy, like Bruno, his own worst enemy. I don't want to get the idea that I'm endorsing, how they were treated. I'm not. But this isn't a simple case of church evil, science good. And again, that was the whole point of the book that I was, it's in progress, I'm trying to convey. But again, you're trying to undo a lot of myths that actually only date from many of them from the 19th century. And many of them are maybe Gibbon as well, did a lot of damage in the late 1700s with stuff that I don't think many serious historians take seriously.
Hey, Dermot, do me a favor. Anytime you respond to somebody's comment, go ahead and read the full comment before you answer.
Yes. Sorry about that.
I want this to stand as an audio document.
Gotcha.
Alrighty. What else we got here? Oh, Mike from Mexico's here. Hey, Mike. So what you just responded to were these two comments from Les. He wrote, Copernicus wasn't completely correct, actually, and that's because the sun itself travels around the center of the galaxy every 200 million years or so. But got to give credit to Copernicus for waiting till dying before publishing his work. Galileo didn't wait and suffered at the hands of the Pope.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a funny story about Galileo. Just give you an idea about how what a jerk he was. He really was a horrible human being. The new Pope comes in. I forget which one was Ballardino or freaking whatever. But anyway, he was friends with Galileo, and Galileo thought, this is great. The Pope is my friend. Now I can finally get some muscle behind me to get my heliocentric theory out. So he asked the Pope. The Pope says, yes, this is fine. I have one request, and that is that you do not state heliocentrism as a fact. You state it with the other models, because there was more than one, too. There was the, what's his face, the guy with the bronze nose, allegedly.
Tycho Brahe.
Tycho Brahe. I don't know if he actually did or not, but anyway. So there was Brahe had his own system where the Earth was in the middle and the Sun orbited the Earth, but most of the planets orbited the Sun. A very different system from the Ptolemaic system. And then there was the Keplerian, and then there was the Copernican. So there was about 6. So the Pope says, just show all the different ones and you can compare them, but just don't pick a side, right? That's all I'm asking. And because there were big things going on at the time, the 30 Years' War, where the entire continent was about to erupt in like a bloodbath that would kill 8 million people, and the church was barely holding on, and the whole continent was, I think things are crazy now. So what does Galileo do? He writes his book, in which it's a Socratic dialogue between the teacher, who is clearly Galileo, and the student, who is the analog or stand-in for the Pope. And the student's name is Simplicio. Now, this is really, really dumb. And it's just like a red flag to a vote. Bear in mind, if you're a Renaissance Pope, the number one thing on your to-do list is not get murdered. You don't... It's like being a Roman emperor. You're watching your back. Oh, terrible job.
Well, if you're a Roman emperor, particularly at certain periods, I mean, your job isn't to not get murdered. It's like not get murdered before lunch.
It's terrible.
Terrible. There was a period where they were going through 2 and 3 emperors a year.
Yeah, it was awful. Why would you want it,
Everybody thinks they're the exception.
Oh, no, it's crazy. So, and then your job number 2 is try to prevent Europe from turning into like a border-to-border bloodbath. And I think something like 8 million people died, and a third of the population of Central Europe just are wiped out in the 30 Years' War, which is, I forget the precise timing, but it's close enough to when this is going on. They all knew, any time things could go like very, very bad. And, Galileo writes all kinds of things like, they are basically upending the entire cosmology of the medieval mind. So it's not just a simple scientific issue. It's really like ontological. It's their entire worldview. He should have been a little more genteel about it. And he was also putting the Buddha into Kepler, who actually had hated Kepler. Kepler was the guy that had the actual solution there. And the other thing too, Galileo stole, a harsh word I guess, but he definitely, he borrowed a lot of work by say John Philoponus from Byzantium from the 500s in Alexandria on, I think, impetus theory, and the Oxford calculators, who were a group of, I think, 4 primarily medieval scholastic mathematicians from Oxford around the 12 or 1300s, Swinehead and Bradwardine. And he just he was an aggregator of a lot of work that many, many other people had done. And again, the whole reason for my book and why it ballooned so much, if you want to destroy the myth, you have to do it by telling something much more close to the truth. And that story is mind-bogglingly complex, especially when you start pulling in like the very, very rich field of medieval science. And it's really staggering. I would recommend books by Edward Grant and David C. Lindbergh. Both of them are passed on, I'm afraid. But a new book has come out called The Light Ages. It's a silly title, but it's like kind of to take down the dark ages in it. I forget the name of the writer, but I bet you can find it. It's about medieval science, and it's aimed more at a general audience. So, whereas say Grant and Lindbergh's books, we aimed more at slightly university, college. I find them quite readable, but some people don't. But yeah, no, that's I think that's where my brain has been at, and sometimes it's just a relief to put this stuff to one side. And I've been getting back into it a bit more recently, so maybe it's germinating in my brain. I might need to wait until I'm back in Ireland and I have hopefully like some cottage out of Boreen where I can have peace and quiet, and, just sit down and set up my Wacom tablet and just start drawing.
Well, I don't know if I told you, I'm actually drawing on a Wacom Cintiq now.
Oh, okay. What size is it?
It's a 22-inch.
Okay. That's good.
It's their entry-level line, so it doesn't have any buttons on it, any quick keys type buttons.
Yeah.
But I have. Can you see me? Am I on your screen?
I can see your in the little picture-in-picture. I can see your ceiling, and then I can see your desktop.
Huh? But like you can't see my face and my hand waving in front of the camera here?
No.
Weird. What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I have a device, a little remote control that I hold in my left hand. It's got lots of different buttons on it that are programmable, but it only works in Clip Studio Paint. You know, Wacom sells one, but it wasn't as I didn't like the ergonomics of theirs. You know, but theirs would have worked with any program, and you know, so I made the choice of going with just the Clip Studio Paint. Right here, I'm working in Adobe Fresco, which is ridiculous because it's meant for touchscreens, and this is not a touchscreen. So I can't zoom in and out. There's all kinds of things I can't do in it because I'm not working on a touchscreen. Yeah. But let me back up and answer a question from Les here, who says, where'd it go? Oh, and Scott, you can't post links here. They won't show up. But if you want a link in the chat, you can send it to me via email, and I'll put it in. But Les says, okay, but I have a question. So I think earlier I told you that I thought that the people who, stopped paying their monthly dues because they weren't going to be going to the gym until the end of COVID, that they should keep paying so that the gym will be there when they get back. And Les says, okay, but I have a question for you, KMO. What's the difference between choosing to pay you don't use now for a gym for posterity's sake, so stop? We don't need to go any further. I'm not talking about posterity. Posterity is, our children, our grandchildren. I'm talking about the exact same people who enjoyed the gym before COVID, before the lockdown. They're going to want a gym to exist there when the lockdown is over. I'm not talking about posterity. I'm talking about the exact same people. They are going to be bitching about the lack of gym when they, are no longer afraid to go outside. So I'm not talking about, people doing things altruistically. I'm saying for your own fucking sake, for your own goddamn utility, keep paying your dues so that the gym will be there. There's no question of posterity. There's no question of sacrificing for the greater good. I'm talking about people who have, their windshield is completely fogged over. They can't see beyond the fucking steering wheel.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes me so angry. So anyway, the rest of Lesik's question is, okay, but I have a question for you, KMO. What's the difference between choosing to pay you don't use now for a gym for posterity's sake and choosing not to take a handout from the government? I don't see any relationship between those two things. But, if you have some point to make, don't ask rhetorical questions. Just make your point. Okay. Saludos to all here in Mexico. Lovely sunny day. Scott says here, that's... So I don't know why YouTube does this, but you cannot post links. Only I can post links.
Oh, I see. Can you see the links I posted?
I don't see that you've posted any links, no.
Oh, I see. Oh, Jesus.
But if you, Dermot, want to post links, just post them in the chat for the Zoom call, and I will post them over in the chat here.
Okay.
And let's see. SM says, very informative guest. I am fascinated by this conversation. Well, there are many C-Realm conversations with Dermot in the C-Realm archive. So go to crealm.com. Type in Dermot, D-E-R-M-O-T, in the search field, and you'll have hours of enjoyable conversation. Lessig says, Grant Limburg, the Light of Ages, would really appreciate if you could write those suggestions in the chat. Okay. And I will...
a link to the Light Ages in the Zoom chat.
And confirm Dermot's observation that all I can see in the lower left pip is your ceiling. That is so weird. Okay, let me see. Where can I find this? Yeah, that's bizarre. That seems to be a frozen image. All right, so what if I turn off the video capture device and turn it back on? Nope, same image. Huh. All right, well, I'll just turn it off. All right, and Paul is here. Hey, KMO, what's up, Les? Hi, Scott. Hello, Dermot. KMO, I haven't gone to my gym in 10 months. I tried to pay my Sifu for my due without attending class. He won't accept it. He is still open, but I don't want to attend yet. You can't just tell people to stop going to work and not compensate them. I mean, I don't know where you stand in relation to the virus. I acknowledge that it's a thing, but in no way, in my opinion, does it justify all the things that have supposedly been done, to contain the virus. It really seems like a way to contain the aspirations of working people.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, I would regard myself as working class, or whatever Greer calls creative class now, but it's not a well-paying career. I mean, I'm on a working class income, but my job does allow me the luxury of being able to work from home.
Yeah, me too. I haven't lost any
girlfriend's
income.
Teacher, very, very working class, and same thing, she can teach from home. Not every person can do that. And I try to do my bit to, recognize the people who have no choice to do that. And that means wear freaking masks and do all the other stuff. Like in terms of like being personal, like my dad got sick back in March, was gallbladder. He was 78 then, and with like cognitive decline. And my mother knew like hospice before, and she knew we're not going to get him back in the same way we put him in. And so he went in, and we couldn't visit because of she couldn't visit because of COVID. And he was in there for 3 weeks, and when he came back, his cognitive decline just gone like to the floor, and he lost executive function. He can't cook or clean anymore, and that was, we had very high death rates in Irish homes at the time. So, he could have easily, if he'd gotten it, he would, I think, probably died. So, so now the problem with her now is if we send him back in, if she does, I think she's within her rights to send him back into permanent care, but she probably would never see him again. She wouldn't go to visit. If he got the thing, he would check that real quick, and the decline would be even faster. So it's a horrible situation, and I think there's two like really horrible. Let it rip, and it'll bury the healthcare system, or we keep doing what we're doing, and we're getting buried anyway. So it's the old Woody Allen joke: one path leads to disaster, and we look at the other room, and let us hope we got the wisdom to choose wisely. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Oh, Woody Allen. I think you can be canceled just for quoting him these days.
Probably. Yeah, they were all rushing to be in his movies until like 2 years ago.
Let's see. Where did I just put that? Dermot, I need help with file management.
Oh.
I'll save something, and 2 seconds later I go to open it in a different program, and I can't remember where I saved it.
Yeah. One thing that might help you will be custom icons. It'll take a while. I spent about a month customizing every icon on my computer where all my files are, which is easy to do in Windows. You can download ICO files and apply them to your folders. It really did help me to remember where my stuff was, rather than the little yellow folder icons.
Les asks which part of Ireland you're from.
A small town called Arklow. It's about 50 miles south of Dublin. I really, really hated it when I was growing up there, and I couldn't wait to get out. But now, I would be absolutely happy going back. One of the things that kind of changed me was my sister moved to America in '94. I moved in '93. She came the year after, and she moved back about 3 or 4 years ago, and she just loved it. And thought, oh God, she wouldn't have loved it if she'd gone back 10 years earlier. Something had changed either in the country or herself. And so I got thinking about it then, and I thought, yeah, I think it's time to head back. America isn't the same country I left, and Ireland isn't the same country I moved to, and Ireland isn't the same country I left. They both kind of, one's gone down and the other's gone up. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stuff in Ireland that will drive you mad. The kind of things that terrify you here, like getting sick or getting shot or burning to death in a fire. God, I had a belly full of that this year. Because I lived in LA for 15 years, and I thought when I moved to Portland, at least I'm getting away from the fires. And that was 12 years ago, and it was really nice for the first 5 or 6 years. And within the last 5 years, 6 years, it's just the summers here have just become horror shows. So anyway, getting back to Ireland, so I've been just looking at property and the kind of things we might be able to afford. And sister, she's offered to help with, helping me to buy a place, and I've got probably enough saved to get maybe 70%, 80% of the way there. So the ideal would be to never have to pay rent again. I'm really tired of paying rent, and it'd be really nice just to have like girlfriend. She's American, but we'll go together and she can't wait to leave. She wants to move. Like, get me out of here every day. He's like, get me out of America. Okay. So, it'd be nice to go with somebody. So, doing it alone would be kind of isolating. So it's nice to have someone to share it with.
Now, I'm not speaking about your girlfriend because I don't know her, but I do know, have spoken to many an American who, they see expressing anti-American sentiments as establishing their credibility as a thoughtful person, or
Yes, yes.
it's there's some very shallow sort of anti-Americanism that I see thrown around a lot, which is not to say that, the U.S. government doesn't have a long list of sins to account for. It certainly does.
Yeah.
But I've lived in other countries, and I know that there's no place where people are smart and sane and make the right decisions and are, have the spirits of angels in them. People are parochial, and they're, they're petty, and they're small-minded everywhere you go. It's just some places, they have better structures in place for managing human behavior. And here we just celebrate, a certain sort of avaricious, viciousness.
Yeah, there's a baseline of, well, I think America, in philosophical terms, is the most classically liberal country in the world.
By
And I'm
which you
using the
mean
term
what?
like the 18th century liberalism, late 17th, early 18th century, which is founded on the idea of the individual as superior overall. The idea that the individual is a lone actor, autonomous, rational, acting in their own best interests.
Homo
It's a myth.
economicus.
It's like John Locke and Hobbes, Adam Smith, all of that stuff. And you really see that like strong, and you see it in libertarianism. It's a political ideology you just don't see in that kind of form in many European countries, at least and this is in the real fringe. And when you listen to stuff from, say, Ireland, even from Britain too, from the British Conservatives, there's a much more stronger sense of, even after the Thatcher trauma, you wouldn't get the same level of that kind of cold libertarian ideology, or right libertarian. And I think a little libertarianism goes a very long way. I don't think it makes for a stable economy or a culture, society. And so what I like about Ireland is that it's, for all its flaws, it's fundamentally more focused on the group in a way that's not sinister. Somebody pointed out one of the Irish, there's an Irish podcast called Motherfucker. Let me spell that because it sounds funny. It's a Irish joke. The Irish word for the word is focal, F-O-C-A-L. So it's mother folklore, F-O-C-L-A-I-O. And it's they did the whole thing on nostalgia. And my girlfriend and I do a podcast called bloomsandbarnacles.com, and it's a blog and a podcast about James Joyce.
Go ahead and post a link to that. I'll put it in the chat here.
Okay. So one of the, let me just type it in now, but one of the themes that we did on that was, and this is something that I just began banging on about, was how nostalgia is actually, can be very sinister, because I was typing dreams and all, by the way, all the illustrations on that website are mine. So you'll see Kelly's articles and then my cartoon for the company. So anyway, what you see if you look at say Britain, they've gone, I think nostalgia, in particular nostalgia for World War II, has driven them kind of mad, because you end up living in I call it a Baudrillardian simulacra. It's a copy of an original that never existed. And you become trapped by it. You become a prisoner. In Germany, Hitler knew what he was doing, like conjuring this mythological Teutonic Knights, and you see it's a key component of the F word, of fascism. You create this mythological past that never existed, and suddenly you've got people willing to die for it. Well, the guys on Motherfucker, and I've said this independently of them, we both kind of thought at the same time, was that the chances of an Irish fascist movement are slim to none if they're going to be building on nostalgia, because our history is such crap that
there's no point in the past that Irish people want to go back to.
No, the closest they can come is 1990 when they got to the last 16 of the World Cup. You talk to Irish people about like Italia '90, and they go, "Oh, Jesus, that was great!" But if you tell them, oh, wouldn't it be great to live in the 1830s? They go, gee, oh God, no. There's no happy time there. And people really have to people like W.B. Yeats and the Golden Dawn people in Dublin, they tried to conjure one of the Celtic dawn, the mythological Ireland of the Bronze Age or whatever. But that's very thin gruel. It's so far away and so vague and foggy. We don't even know anyone's names from that period. And even then, we still find these slaughtered corpses and bogs that were put there thousands of years ago. And Jesus, no. If you're ever in Dublin, you go to the National Museum and they have the bodies on display. You can go in, you can see that it's really fucking creepy. It's really just standing there looking at these like 2,500-year-old corpses that have been sliced up and I think what was the phrase? They've been over murdered. They've been like just butchered, and they suspect that they were like royals, they were kings, they were high status individuals. But other than that, it's very hard to say.
Well, I don't know if there's any historical accuracy to it, but there was a comic book series it was illustrated by a number of different people, but the one that I think of most often is Simon Bisley, and it was Slain the Horn God. And
yes.
And in that the Sun King, he rules for a predetermined period. I forget how many years, and then at the end of that period, not only is he out of office, he gets tortured to death in a public ceremony. So you really got to be committed, You got to be pretty sure that you can do a good job. All right.
Yes.
So somehow I've detached my drawing from the larger program. How do I re-embed it? Oh, I hate this stuff.
Which program are you using?
That's Clip Studio Paint.
Oh, okay. If anybody out there is using Photoshop, let me warn you, don't update it. The latest version has a showstopper bug. If it doesn't like your graphics card, the program will just crash.
I sometimes fantasize about breaking away from Adobe and not paying the $60 a month anymore. Yeah. And for me, it would be a pain in the ass to relearn how to use a whole bunch of different programs. But the one that I think that would bother me the least is Photoshop. It has changed so much over the years, and what I need it to do hasn't changed. Just finding the tools that I'm used to using every time there's a new version, they reconfigure the interface and there's all new tools, and the things that I used to use are buried in some menu somewhere. And honestly, adapting to the newest configuration of Photoshop is about as difficult as just starting from scratch and learning to use, the GIMP or something free.
I've heard that the newer version too, they have a problem thread on the Adobe site, and even for the people who are getting it working out, it's really slow. And because they've loaded all this AI magic into it, and some of that stuff's incredible, but it's just a hog, and it's made the thing very unstable. If you do think of like a new program and you can buy it, like Corel Painter, you can do a trial of it and see if you like it. The brushes in that are staggering. They're amazing. There's almost too many. But you can buy it outright. Buy the 2021 version for, I think it's 200 or 300. That's what you'll pay in by a year for Photoshop, and then you got it.
Yeah. Now, I'd also have to break away from Adobe Premiere. And I downloaded, DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah, how's that working?
The icons, I can't read anything in any of the menus. The icons are too small. Everything is just too small for me to see.
Okay.
And I can't figure out how to increase the display size, so it's absolutely useless to me.
Okay.
Let's see. Where am I going to put this? How about miscellaneous? There we go. So I'm just going to close this and see if reopening it fixes the problem. Yes. Excellent. All right. Oh, and let's see. You've posted something new. Blooms and barnacles. Yes. So, Bruce from LA, he's in
yes.
He's in Colorado now. But he had long stretches of Finnegan's Wake committed to memory.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, I would be hard pressed to just read aloud a page or two
Yeah.
from that book, and anything approaching just a natural intonation and rhythm.
Yeah.
Okay, what am I doing? I'm posting
So
this over here.
the story of how I met Bruce is kind of great. It was like 2006, and there was some movie about peak oil. It was screening out in the boonies, and I just posted on their forum, I work in North Hollywood. Can anybody give me a ride to this? And this guy called Bruce says, yeah, I work in that area. And I said, I work at Lancashire and Magnolia. And then he replied, you work at Disney? And I said, yeah, we work at Disney Mobile. He said, me too. So it turned out we both worked in the same building. And so Bruce drove me out to it. That's how I got to meet him. Great guy. Bruce worked on, I think, Ghostbusters in 1984. If you look at his IMDb, it's great. Like some of the classic, 80s animation stuff.
Well, he was one of Ralph Bakshi's circle of animators for several films. Right. He worked on Fire and Ice. He also worked on Cool World and some of the later Bakshi classics. I don't think he was with him back for like Fritz the Cat and things like that, or Wizards.
Right.
But the later stuff, Bruce was on hand there. All right.
Now, Bruce actually helped to get my sister hired at Disney as well, so he's a great guy.
Indeed. All right. Blooms and barnacles. So I'm going to just scroll back through the chat here, see what folks are talking about. Rhetorical questions are beneficial because they outline the other person's views. The battle lines are drawn, so to speak. My point is that leeching off the teat of the government is a short-term strategy. Just like not paying for something you're using now, but know you will in the future, is also a short-term strategy. Yep. Both hurt you and others in the end. Well, I confirm, or I agree, short-term strategies are ultimately probably cost you more than they save you. That doesn't mean that I subscribe to all this, sucking from the government teat language, as I do not. I think that's thought-stopping language. Alrighty. Paul says...
if they want to stop taxing us, then...
Yeah, exactly.
I'm up for that. Let's try that.
Get rid of the taxes and I won't ask for any benefits.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even agree to that experiment now, because that would just be locking in, the disparities of wealth and power.
Yes.
That would be handing the keys of governance over to corporations and saying, here, we're just giving up any pretense of government. You just rule. You just do what you do.
Yeah.
Paul says, the approach to COVID has been a blanketed one-size-fits-all approach, but we know there are certain populations that are major transmitters. The approach could have been more targeted to these populations. I wouldn't even target the transmitters. I would target the people who are most at risk of dying if they catch the disease, and isolate, quarantine them, protect them from getting infected, because they're the ones who are likely to die. This virus kills very, very, very few people who are, in good health.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, he already read that somehow. That's a repost. Okay, I see. Just like not paying for something you're not using. Yeah, I already read that. Huh. Okay, Dermot, about peak oil. What's your take these days?
I just read a big piece on it yesterday, actually. Quite a long one. I think what happened was and I saw the graphs too, like the 1971 or 70 oil peak production in the US was definitely beaten by all the tight oil. But that oil is garbage oil. It's the energy return and energy invested is lower and lower and lower. And a lot of that stuff is taken out of the ground with basically financial spivery. They just threw money at these companies and they were able to extract that oil at I think, as far as I know, all of it is at a loss. The debt bubble of this stuff is phenomenal. It remains. I was waiting for the fracking bubble to burst and cause a major crisis before COVID, and for years, like, okay, will this be the year? One of these years is going to be the year, and COVID has just accelerated, like a lot of things, compressed a lot of things that were going to happen in 10 years into one. So I don't know if this is the one to take out fracking or not and take us back to peak oil. John Michael Greer said that he fully expects peak oil to come roaring back. And one of the sad things about it is a lot of the people who should have kept going stopped writing about it. Excuse me. And I think my cynical attitude is, I think when they realized that the tide oil came in, they knew this was going to be a 10, 15-year bubble. It was going to kick peak oil down for like a decade and a half, and there was just no profit to be made from talking about peak oil. And so you have websites like the Oil Drum go away. And you have a few dissidents like Gail Tverberg keep writing about her website's called Our Finite World. She's very good. But that great group, that cluster, that movement, once they realized there weren't going to be any great government plum jobs being a peak oil advisor, well, I'm not going to be, sitting around talking about this thing for the next 15 years, waiting for the next bubble to burst. So now we're 2020? 2012 was when it really began showing. And that was 8 years ago. So they had to know that, that it was definitely going to flood the market with oil. But it's not like, if you look at the energy return and energy invested of oil in the early 19th century, it was like 100 to 1. And I think, according to the thing I was reading yesterday, it's now under 10 to 1 and heading to 5. And once you head toward 5 to 1, you get really bad things happening. And I think somebody said, like, high oil prices crush consumers and low oil prices crush producers.
I think that's a paraphrase of Jim Kunstler right there.
Kunstler, yeah, that's right. And I don't like a lot of what Jim says, but I would, that's a very efficient way of describing it. And that Goldilocks zone is getting narrower and narrower. So I think we're going to see, and I'm not going to say when, but probably it's well within our lifetimes, something really, really unpleasant. So anybody out there should definitely be keeping in mind, like, what would happen if the price of oil either went really high or went down really low, but you just weren't able to get it. Like if you get a deflationary spiral, you get lower prices but less money chasing those prices. So it could be, $1 a barrel again, but you're making 20% of what you used to, or what you do. I'm
well, you can't produce oil for $1 a barrel, so it's never going to be that low.
Yeah. But you remember, like, a few months ago when it went negative, like, that was just unreal.
It wasn't oil that was negative, though. It was a certain category of futures. Yeah. It was a certain category of financial instruments involving oil that got so tweaked and out of whack that, for a short time, if you had a place to store it, I mean, if you had a way to take delivery of huge quantities of oil, you could get them. You could get them and get a check.
Yeah.
But it didn't mean that oil was free.
Yeah. Like Paul says, peak oil is going to be serious. Discoveries of new reserves are way down. There's a lag into this matter. And he's right. Like, if you look at the historical graph of discovery, it's just like flat. They can make up for that by, they increase the URR, the reserve growth. They find ways to get the existing stuff out there, out. But again, you can either look at that economically. Is it economically affordable to do that? The other way of looking at it is thermodynamically. How much energy are you burning to get that stuff out? And once that ratio starts going towards like under 10 and closer to 5, then watch out. Because, you can see where this is heading. And when you're building these enormous oil rigs and using all these chemicals to get this stuff out. That would fuel my long-term pessimism. From a selfish point of view, I hope, they can keep the wheels on for another 3 years. Just I can get on the plane, get the cats, get the girlfriend, get on the plane, get to work.
Is that your timeline, 3 years?
2023, I think, is my drop dead. We have to get out. I don't want to be here after 2023. I don't want to be here for another election year. And actually, preferably before 2023 summer. These summers are awful. Like this year, we had to tape up every window in the house to keep the pollution out.
Oh,
and we had an AQI of like 550. It was the worst in the world in Portland, I think, in any major city. Probably worse around smaller towns, but we were the worst major city in the world. I'm not up for like having lung damage. Or like burning to death is not recommended either. It's bad for your health. So, it's so different from just a few years. The speed at which things have gone bad is really horrifying. Like, it's not comparable at all. And that happened so fast. Like, I came here in 2007, and it was within a decade. And it went from one thing to another. So I hope when I go to Ireland, it doesn't freeze or burn, or because you wouldn't know. It could happen there too, I guess.
Well, how self-sufficient is Ireland in terms of feeding itself and providing itself with its own power needs?
Yeah, Ireland is we're at the end of the tail. But the great thing about the country is it's a relatively low population on the landmass close enough to the size of England, massive agricultural base. So the climate usually temperate. You could use like a lot of passive systems if you wanted to keep your house going. So in the event of a crisis, I don't think it'll be fun, but you'd have that social collective base that people have there, that I don't think exists here in the same way. So that would be, and you find too when you're there, you're more relaxed, no matter what happens. We've been through crap before, so I think people know how to like muddle through. As I thought, there's a siren off in the distance.
Okay, so Les is he's taken up the hard position in this conversation, and it's Les. I will support you in this, but he is taking up the technological adaptation angle.
Yes.
So hard to express oneself in okay, that's from the previous conversation. Kamo says the virus kills few that are in good health. Large portions of Black and other minority communities are unhealthy. That's true. Yeah. But, again, I think an assessment of who's at risk, how can we help those people, would have been much better than, okay, everybody stop everything. Stop earning a living. Although you still have to, pay all of your obligations to society, you're not allowed to make any money. That's not tenable. That's simply not tenable. And there's nobody who has even 1 foot in reality who could think that was tenable.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, then you've got to pay them UBI. You've got to give them money.
Exactly. And not just once.
Yeah, no. 1,200 is not good enough. Not enough.
So Paul says peak oil is going to be serious. Discoveries, you already addressed that. New efficiency technology is taking up the slack, says Les. Peak oil has been around since the 60s. Actually, Michael C. Mann does a good job of talking about how the notion of peak oil has been causing U.S. military adventures overseas for about a century now. For about a century, people in positions to make decisions about the deployment of the military have been freaking out about the possibility of running out of oil. And so we've been in a century-long struggle to lock down the sources, not really understanding that we're basically sitting on top of a huge reservoir. It's just not so easily tapped as, the Saudi Ghawar field. Anyway, Paul says, I hope so. My prediction is that nobody's predictions will pan out, that everybody's predictions will will be right enough that, people will post hoc claim, see, I had it right, but wrong enough that, nobody that isn't already on their side will be convinced. But a little bit of everybody is going to pan out, I think, except predictions which are clearly and unambiguously, mutually exclusive. Let's see. Les says, just make a list of all the peak oil theories and you'll see that almost none, if none, he says none, but I think he means none, of the serious ones have translated into catastrophe. Tech usually finds a way to solve the problem. Tech and reallocation of capital. It's not
technology. Technology, as Kunstler said, technology is not energy.
That's
technology
true.
Can extract more energy more efficiently, but it's not an equal sign to it.
It's not a source of energy, like hydrogen. You can use hydrogen to store energy, but it's not a source of energy.
Right. It's a sink. Yeah.
Right. Paul says the implications are real at the landscape level. Can North Dallas survive with large inputs without? I think he means without large inputs of fossil fuels. I don't think so. But North Dallas is quite close to the source. Let's see. Yeah, you're right, Paul. On the micro level, relatively speaking, there might be some stresses on jobs and local economies. Well, of course, the tech revolution is totally upsetting lots of people's apple carts in terms of how do I make a living. But these places are usually limited in scope and area. If there will be a deficiency in oil or energy for that matter, it'll be due to logistical failure or due to human blunders or of political nature. That's fine unless you live in one of those places. Yeah, so, there's there's a tightrope to be walked here. Oh, by the way, Dermot, are you able to take up more bandwidth now and start showing people what you can do?
Show my desktop. I have to live stream before, so.
So I might have to go into the Zoom call and give you permission to screen share. Let's see, where is that? Here. Okay. No. Reactions, recording, chat, participants. Dermot, more. Huh. Well. When Scott was on and he was drawing online, I had to make him the host in order to let him screen share. But let's see if you can do it. Who is this old guy on my computer? He kind of looks like me. He's got all kinds of lines in his forehead that I'm not used to seeing. All right. So you're always seeing me in profile because my Surface Pro is over there and the Cintiq is here. Let's see, how can I, there we are. Paul says, oh yeah, the leader here understand the problems and are actively trying to address them. Oh, what have I missed here? Well, Paul, you'll vote in better leaders or vote with your feet or hunker down and become an entrepreneur and be one of the people that leads the way in your community. Oh yeah, the leaders here understand these problems and are actively trying to address them. Some are. Most are just trying to maintain their own power base. Hey, everybody hear that Andrew Yang is most likely going to be running for mayor of New York City? He's got a great advantage with voters, but he'll have a huge hill to climb in terms of cooperation of the established political machinery and the donor class. Uh-oh, I see something from Dermot here.
You can see me or not?
What I see is a screen that is mostly white but blue at the top.
That's fine. Yeah, that is. Never live streamed before, and I'm not a Zoomer.
So in Zoom, there's a screen share option at the bottom. If you click on that,
screen. Okay.
Yeah, share screen.
Okay. Host disabled participant screen share.
Okay, that's a goddamn lie, but I understand that it is something that I have to fix at this end. So, reactions, chat. How about this? No. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Dermot, I'm going to make you the host of this thing.
Okay.
So you'll have to give me permission to share a little later. Or you just have to pass it back to me. So, participants, Dermot, more options, make host. Yes. All right, you are now the host. You have the wheel.
Jesus.
Don't let the power go to your head, man.
So if I hit share screen, then that's what I should do?
Try it.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Derm has started screen sharing. Ah, look at that. Pyramid of Zombies.
So this is, I have these two ongoing projects that I'm probably never going to finish on everything I do. And this is like my Twilight Zone comic, and they're all like little short stories with Twilight Zone twists in the end. So this one is, my zombie story. So I had great fun drawing the sniper taking out all the ghouls.
Very reminiscent of the early issues of the comic book of The Walking Dead, which is really engrossing.
yeah, I like them. So this is, the guy's calling the wall. Let's see. Is it number two? Yeah, number two is two. So every time I watch a zombie show, it's kind of, I have to do like a little mental retcon where I go, this is in a parallel universe where they never had nuclear power plants. Because in the final episode of this, basically everyone dies after they've finally defeated the zombies. They all die from nuclear fallout. So because all of the reactors weren't scrammed properly, and the fallout just kills the survivors anyway. And then the final panel, we were the zombies. And, I tremendous fun drawing. I like doing this black and white, just for tone. I don't know if I'm going to leave these as are, or I go back and add some more muscle flashes and stuff like that.
So would you scroll back to the top of the page and show us just that top panel? How long did it take you to do that top panel, do you think?
A couple of days, maybe. Yeah, that was fairly intricate. I'm looking at it now, if I could go in and revisit some of these figures where it's stiff. Maybe picking the lines a bit, but I like the zombies in this massive horde.
Well, I like all the dark colors in your foreground figures, and then the muzzle flashes creating this line of light to divide them from the dark background. And the zombies that are getting shot right in front, they are also very light colored. So you've got these layers and bands which very easily read as a rank of people firing, a rank of zombies being shot, and then just a sea of zombies behind them.
I would even push this, if I revisit this, I might mix some of these guys here black. It's something I tend to be timid about, with going to total black for huge areas of it. But I've seen a lot of comic book, I really like that. And one reason why I like working in black and white, it forces me to be bold with the tone. And when you work in color, there's a tendency to stick with tone, to stick with color to separate spaces and not use tonal values as well. And I always tell people masterclass in lighting and tonal is the Outer Limits TV show. And the guy who did the lighting on that, there was 3 Oscar winners who worked on for lighting, who worked on that show, and it's a masterpiece of lighting. And but that was an inspiration. There was so much stuff on that. A good lighter can make a cheesy cardboard set look gorgeous.
Yeah.
It can look drama into it. And it really made me conscious now of badly lit scenes. And if only you'd cast some shadows on that wall. So I try to do that with my own work now. This one's a nice one for just another thing too that people forget is you notice too, I'm using 5.1 because my newer one crashed and I can't use the newer version of Photoshop on this. But I can do everything at 5 CS 5.1. But strong diagonal. I always tell people this is we've got a curved line here too, but and then there's this big empty space here. But just trying to make stronger empty spaces.
Yeah. One of my frustrations is that because I'm doing a webcomic and because I'm not particularly fast at it, and because I want to tell a story, I have very little empty space in my pages. It's all filled with just dialogue and just enough imagery to show you who's speaking and where they are, and that's about it.
Right.
So yeah, pages like that where you've got less than a dozen words on the whole page, and maybe a third of it is white. I look at that with envy.
Yeah.
Battle of my goodness. Lucky Charms.
Yes. Yeah. So
hey, I think we have Jim, your ad attacker, in the chat here. It seems a little early in the day, unless he's not working today, or maybe it's a different Jim D. But Jim of the Attack Ads podcast?
No, I didn't.
That's a great podcast. Everybody should be listening to that. Attack Ads with an exclamation point. Here, I'll post that in the chat. Anyway, whoever this Jim D is says Dermot picks, exclamation point, Dermot picks, exclamation point. And Les says, Paul, you seem creative and ethically based and a hard worker from what I hear. One of my Achilles heels is I like to argue. But the day KMO agrees with me on everything is the day I'll wish him all the best and move on. I have an almost Ed level of curiosity. So Ed that he's talking about here is Ed Yersh, or Ed the Willing, Edulus in Montreal. And I've met Ed. He put Neil Kramer and me up in his apartment when we were doing our Manifesting in Meat Space tour back in 2010. And he's usually here in these chats, but he's not today. Let's see. And an insatiable need to know and be right. The only way to do that is to test your limits and speak with people who disagree with you. Yep. You do, says Jim D. I work early, KMO. All right, so it is Jim, your ad attacker. Let's see. So I'm going to grab the link to the website. Attack ads, exclamation point.
Okay, Mo, do you want to be back in charge again? Or
No.
do you want to?
Keep giving us a tour of your artwork here, and if I'd love to see you draw some stuff too.
Oh, okay.
Any chance I could get you to draw one of the Geb characters?
Oh, I don't really know them though. So what I can do is I can draw you. I just show you my general process.
Okay.
On the spot. So. So one of the hardest things for me with Photoshop is getting a nice brush, because I find I can't draw with these; they're just too sterile. And so I use a jaggy kind of brush. So
what is that? What is that brush you've got there?
This comes from. There's a guy. He did like a whole pack of them. I can send you my presets file. That's the easiest way of doing it. And then you'll be able to load these in with the brushes and see. But you just put like a little jag. You can change the grease, the windows.
Hey, Ed's here. I was just talking about Ed.
So you put a bit of shape dynamics on. You just go into the settings, and there's a little bit of jitter on it. And I think a little bit. So anyway, that's enough to change the amount of jitter. And you can make it like less or more. So even like a tiny amount would be enough just to get you away from that completely sterile. Maybe like 22. So if you put like a little jitter on, then you get this very nice, more hand-drawn, and I can change the flow as well to make it a bit darker. So now you're looking at something when you zoom out. It doesn't have that like sterile kind of feeling to it, and a little bit of pressure down with the rack, and you get these strokes that are much nicer. So anyway, the way I do that, I have like 3 passes usually. Like one is the gesture, and then the second one would be kind of rough, and then the third would be tie down, and then if you want, sometimes you might do a fourth, it would be clean up. So I'll just do the first one first. The gesture drawing, I'll do a drawing of like one of the characters from Siblings and Barnacles for the one. So I'm doing opacity about 66. So let's say it's going to be just a character standing up, nothing too fancy. And this holding, it's got a walking stick with that.
Hey Dermot, your audio has gotten really muddy for some reason.
Probably because it might be choking on the video. So if I stop drawing now, is it getting any better?
Keep talking.
Okay. So anyway, that could be the gesture drawing. But then I'll right click on there, the blending options, full overlay, make it blue. And so then I can take that opacity down, and then I can do like a more of a thinner version. So at this point we can start with blocking in with the mustache, eyes, put some construction on the head. They all wear hats and whatnot at this time period. And here, and again, so now we're starting to see something that's a little more form to it.
Yep.
And fingers. Walrus suit versus well. Instruction lines for the shirt. And I'll actually push the board. I'm not going to be too handcuffed by the wall. Okay, so now I can switch off that and right click on this one, blending options, and so we can see different layers and different colors. And we can make that one. So this also helps us to keep track of all these different layers. So now I've got that. And now the tide in, I'm putting the wall on that can be 30% opacity. And now when I do, this is when I would get like much slower and start putting in like smaller details like highlights and creases and nostrils and expressions. One of the things about Ulysses working on his blog with Kelly is talking is just how perfect the book is.
You know, Dermot, I really can't understand what you're saying anymore.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I'd say just keep drawing for a bit, and then I'll have you stop the screen share, and I'll go back to drawing, and you can resume dropping science on us.
All right.
So it seems like you really work in pretty close, even in the early stages here.
Yeah.
You notice the program I started off using, Adobe Fresco, as I said, because I'm not using a touchscreen, I can't zoom in and out. Whereas in Clip Studio Paint, which is what I use for detailed drawing, I can zoom in so easily and so much that I spend ridiculous amounts of time fiddling over details that nobody's going to look at. Which is not helpful in terms of, getting work done in a timely fashion. So what would you say your character here is like 4 heads high?
3.
3?
Yeah.
I can only see his feet right now. Yeah, I guess so. 3. All right.
So that would be the very quick. Like, so let's say I'm happy with that line, and then you want to color.
Tie down. What does tie down mean?
So tie down, you take the rough, which is, it's, you can see where everything is, but it's not enough to color it, it's too loose.
Right.
So tie down just gets you there. It's not cleaned up yet. Like, I could go one more and really go, like what you were doing with the Geb one, but I like this kind of rough style, so this works for me. But sometimes I will do a cleanup pass and go one more time over it. But that's the general process. And then to color it, see I do magic wand.
The nice thing about, or one of the nice things about Clip Studio Paint is that you can have both raster and vector layers in the same image.
That's how you use it.
So I always do my ink as a vector layer because there's different tools that you can apply, change the shape or the weight or, different aspects of the line, even after it's already down, if it's a vector. And you can also resize it, infinitely enough without losing detail.
Yeah.
And it allows me to not climb that gross learning curve of trying to figure out how to use Illustrator.
Oh God, no! Illustrator's awful.
I know, I hate it.
Terrible problem. So this, I'll just do this like very rough. You can see what I'm doing here. Like, see, this is like mask.
Mm-hmm.
So you can color in like very, very quickly. That's it. That's essentially the workflow.
That's your process, right on.
Yeah, and you can see how I can just draw like right over the whole thing there. And, if I want like a different color too, I can make a new layer.
Now, there's a thing that Disney used to do in their hand-drawn animation, which a lot of contemporary illustrators they keep that same practice, and that is they change the color of the outline lines from black to just a darker version of whatever it's up next to. And I like the effect, but it takes forever.
Now I can show you how to do that. So what I've done is I've got the tie-down layer here. That's just the line.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll make a new layer and mask it to that. And now if I want to do an ink layer, now let's find a spot like here. So I'll pick that color, go on a little darker. And now with the brush tool, I can color that in. That's an ink line. Those were like hell to do back in the day. You can see how easy they are. Like if I want to do that, to soften that line there. They used to do them with like sort of a repeater graph, and the inkers would have to hold this thing like 100% vertical to get the line to the ink flow.
Wow.
So that's it. That's how you do an ink line. So you have you call that now my line name.
Now I always pronounced it rapidograph, but it's been, I don't know, a decade or more since I've said that word.
Well, I haven't used one since the 1990s.
That's when I was using them.
Great fun to draw with.
Yeah, you couldn't really vary the line width with them, not very easily, but they I was looking for a clean look, and they really gave you that clean look.
Well, so you can add things like highlights too.
All right, this is going to be our cover art for this video.
And you can add shadows. I'm just using black, but you can use different colors for shadows too.
While you continue, I'm going to read and respond to some of the things in the chat here. Let's see. Oh, I missed a lot. Okay, Ed says to Les, I think your question yesterday may have led me to come up with a new idea which has never been promulgated before. Well, I don't know what that question is. Les says, you've intrigued me. What was the question? And what is your spin-off potentially genius idea? Ed says, conservatives/liberals go their own way. The spin-off is this: prepare. The existence of the beyond, over there, yonder, creates a sifting of conservatives and liberals. Conservatives tend to stay home, while liberal, adventurous types tend to pack up and explore. You know, Ed, I don't know that I agree with those stereotypes. I mean, I've known a lot of immigrants to the U.S. who started their own businesses. They're very adventurous people. You know, they rolled the dice, went to a foreign land where they didn't fit in, and they were going to, make a go of it. And they tend to be very politically conservative. They tend to.
Yeah.
They do not like, political liberalism or social liberalism. Yeah, they go to America. No, I don't think it's the liberals going to America, Ed. I think it's mostly, conservative type entrepreneurs who are willing to take those sorts of risks. Les says that's a start, but Ed, at some point the liberals will split into right and left in the contest of their group, and so will the conservatives. It's always a matter of relative reference. They go to the West Coast, says Ed. Scott says, it's so hard not to make a drawing take forever by getting obsessed over details. That's why I like Inktober, because it forces me to get done and ship. So, Dermot, you know about Inktober?
Yeah.
I totally forgot about it this year, spaced on it, but I was working a lot anyway. Normally I want to participate in Inktober just because I'm not doing much and I want to get drawing. Ed says, they are attracted to explore and extend the human settlement area. The lack of a yonder is forcing conservatives and liberals to live shoulder to shoulder, and they aren't getting along. Les says, I'm not sure I agree. Maybe it depends on the age. Back in the late 17th century, it was the Puritans who made the first step. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Ed. I don't think it is socially liberal people who are the risk takers. I don't think they're the ones who are going to pack up and go to new lands for the most part. This is another reason why Musk's Mars project is so important. In a sense, the Puritans were craving liberty and novelty. They were idealists. Yes, you're right, says Les. That's why Mars will be the next America, maybe. I have counterpoints to why it might not. I'll just jump in here and say I'm sure it will not be. Not in this century, anyway. But it seems to be the next promised land. So, people from Europe could come to North America, and even though the flora and fauna were different and it was difficult to survive and a lot of people died from disease, you could breathe the air. You could drink the water. You could plant things in the soil and they would grow. And none of that is true on Mars. Mars, any human presence on Mars for the next century will be absolutely dependent on getting stuff from Earth for their survival. Even Antarctica, where you can step outside and breathe the air. It's damned cold, but you can survive there outside without a spaceship. McMurdo Station, they have to have a huge supply ship come in every year and bring them tons and tons of supplies. So Mars, go for it, but no, it's not the new America.
There's a YouTube channel called Common Sense Skeptic, and he does these amazing debunks of the Mars missions. And he did one on food. It's essential to watch. Just the one on food and water.
Yeah,
it's really demoralizing.
No, Mars is not the new America. It is not the new virgin land that you can just go and set up camp in. You will be dependent on a supply line that is longer than we can imagine. You just can't imagine the distance between Earth and Mars. If you're looking at the sequence of planets from the sun, it's pretty close. It's a lot closer than Jupiter, but it's a very long ways away. Let's see. Interesting that you classify the Puritans as liberals. Yeah, exactly. Ed, I'm sorry. I think your premise is flawed at the foundation in terms of liberals being the ones who are the adventurous types who are going to go take advantage of uncertain opportunities over yonder. I will not stay for the full live stream, says Ed, because I want to get out and working before it gets dark at 4:13 p.m. Yeah, I know that. So Ed drives... he was driving for Uber, and now he's doing, DoorDash. He's delivering food to people at home. Scott says, it's fabulous to see how Dermot draws. Yeah, particularly the highlighting and the shading, like the shade from the hat on the face.
Took me a while, but I've actually seen some other YouTube videos from other people who've independently developed the same structure, and it just seems for Photoshop this is optimal, I think. And my problem with other programs is often they don't nest layers like this. That can be a real problem. They use a different method, and I have to retrain my brain. No, Photoshop is good. I do love using Photoshop. It's really nice.
Yeah, I never ever draw in Photoshop. I draw on paper more than I draw in Photoshop, and I rarely draw on paper. Let's see. Les says, I viewed Puritans as conservatives, but I think you might be onto something, Ed, in that that in their age they were radicals, fundamentalists, and fundamentalists can be liberal ones or conservatives, fanatics. Ed, thanks for that. You gave me food for thought. Ed says, it's a good day when we agree on something, Les. It's nice when we agree, but it's the dissonance that makes it interesting. Les says, America took about 200 years between Columbus and the first successful settlement. Mars will likely take the same amount. Hi. See, my position is, and I know it's a simplistic one, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again, space is for robots. Humans need Earth's atmosphere, atmospheric pressure, gravity, magnetic protection from cosmic radiation and radiation from the sun. I mean, we are evolved to live right here. What? Go watch your cat videos. All right. Jim D says, Mars may be closer than Jupiter, KMO, but I think the asteroid belt offers more opportunity than a damned gravity well. You know, Jim, I'll do you one better. I think that there are plenty of near-Earth asteroids that we could take advantage of without even bothering with Mars. You know, long before we need to start plucking stuff out of the asteroid belt. Because the asteroid belt is a damn trip far, it's far, far away from here. But there are asteroids that pass there are asteroids that this year, big-ass things that would have been a calamity if they'd hit, have passed between the Earth and the Moon. So if we can get a better idea of where the new near-Earth objects are, what their trajectories are, and what it would take to move them into like an orbit around the Moon or around the Earth, then it would be, great for mining. Paul says, Les, pizza party at my house tonight. You coming over? That would be quite a trip. And I don't think he'd make it there before the pizza got cold. Scott says, there seems to be a pretty well-established correlation between where someone is on the novelty-seeking scale and political alignment. Yeah, absolutely. Now, people who do score high in novelty-seeking and sensation-seeking, they do correspond or they do correlate with liberalism. Or what we call liberalism in the United States in the 21st century, which, as Dermot will tell you, is a far cry from what the word meant, 100 years ago. Scott says, conservatives are much lower and liberals are much higher, but that doesn't necessarily mean that liberals would be more likely to strike out on relocation adventures. Jim D says, not plucking and mining, but assembling multitude into better human settlement. Well, you still have to mine the resources, from the asteroids and refine them in order to use them as building materials. Isaac Arthur has a great YouTube channel about these topics, and he put out a video just yesterday in talking a lot about, the timescale involved in mining out even a medium-sized asteroid. I mean, generations of people could live on that asteroid while it's being mined out. It's not a quick process.
And you saw from the recent recovery missions how dangerous those objects are. Like the slightest puff on them, and you've got shards of very sharp rocks.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are described as just clusters of gravel. They're not really. They don't have much structure to them. Yeah, I love those videos when they play it in speed and you can just see the bow and the plume. But yeah, it's really something to watch. Now, granted, apparently there's one that they're going to visit in the next couple of years, and it's not one of those carbonaceous contracts. It's actually like a metal object, so it could be very, very different. Yes. The name of it's on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, I mean, there's more metal in that asteroid than is, available to us on the surface of the Earth. Mm. And it will destroy, the price for basic materials. I mean, it'll just throw the market into complete havoc. Yeah. Although, ideally, the only things they're going to send back to Earth are going to be gold, platinum, neodymium, and other rare earths and things that are very valuable in small quantities. And they'll keep the iron and the aluminum and the other really useful but very dense and fairly common here on Earth materials out in space to build stuff in space. Let's see, Creative Cathedral of Asteroid Rock using robots. Oh, carve a cathedral, yeah. There's a concept of a castle, or what's another word for it? Basically, you build a space station that doesn't have any propulsion, really. But you put it in an orbit, like a really oblong elliptical orbit, so that both Mars and Earth are within the orbit of this object, which is just moving, via inertia and gravity, and it doesn't have to be propelled. And like every couple of years it passes Earth, every couple of years it passes Mars, and to get to Mars, basically you just hop on the castle when it's close to Earth, and you hop off when it's close to Mars.
Yeah. I think Buzz Aldrin came up with that one a few years ago. That you could build a spaceship that would do that, and then it wouldn't need propulsion. So you could deck it out with living quarters, and you'd have to refuel it with food and water, of course. And then shuttles would then take you from one end to the other. It's ambitious.
Oh, it's not anything that's happening in our lifetime, but it is definitely an ambition to hold in mind.
But also, you would be on that ship for 2 years instead of going directly in 3 months or 6 months. If you have
but it's huge. You can walk to the mall, or go bowling or whatever. You're not stuck in a closet for 10 months or however long it takes to get to Mars.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to refill my coffee. I'll be back, and then when I get back, I'm gonna reclaim the screen if that's all right. So if you would make me the host again. Ooh, cat. Oh, you want a treat? All right. Why don't you see the chicken? Here. Yep, here you go. All right, that's looking great, Dermot. Let's see what else we got. Les says, laugh out loud, Paul. I'm in Poland for now, but I'll take a rain check. I also see a major difference between liberals and conservatives when it comes to religion. In the 1970s, they did unethical experiments where they cut the corpus callosum, and then they asked each half of the brain a question. The other half didn't know of the existence of the other. The question was, do you believe in God? One half always said yes in everyone, the other half the opposite. Huh. I've heard of the split brain experiments. I didn't hear about the God part of it. Jim D says, I've been mulling a design for about 30 years now. I should draw it out one day. Ed says, I would like to see that design, Jim D. Les says, Paul, I am conservative, but have many liberals as friends. Well-meaning, naive idealists sometimes are easier to stand than conservative fanatics. Yeah, I'm with you there, Les. Jim D says, so would I, Ed, so would I. Like I said, I really should draw it. Yeah, I agree. Alrighty. There we are. There's our what era is this dude from?
1904.
1904. Okay. All right. So, am I the host again?
Oh, let me see. I'll stop sharing.
Go to participants.
Awesome.
Yep. So scroll or slide to your left a little. So there I am in the upper right. So I think if you hover your mouse over me, you'll have the option of.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm the host. Okay, great. You got it. All right. So there's that. Drag it over here. All right. Now I'm going to knock this thing out right quick. Although not as quick as Dermot did his. So here. Now, no, you can't see me. Let's see. Oh, come on. This device
Yep.
is what I use as a substitute for the, the hotkeys on the side of a Cintiq.
Oh, okay.
So the one I use the most is this middle button. That's just the equivalent of a space bar, so I can drag the page around. And then right above it is Control Z. So those two take me a long way.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another bad habit that digital drawing gives you is the draw a line, Control Z, draw it again, Control Z,
Yes.
draw it again, Control Z, draw it again. 15 times later, it's like, you know what? I think I liked the first one best.
Yeah, drawing on layers can give you bad habits too. Sometimes I find the biggest, if you're doing like a crowd composition, you find yourself pushing like different characters around. Sometimes it's better to do a quick gesture sketch and use that as reference instead.
Let's see. I often will do the gesture or, the rough sketch in Adobe Fresco, which I think is Adobe's answer to Procreate. Are you familiar with Procreate, Dermot?
I'm not, no, not at all.
Are you a Mac or a PC person? You're PC, right? Yeah, okay. So Procreate is it's a drawing program or art program that is mainly for the iPad and really takes advantage of the Apple Pencil.
Right.
And I don't like Apple and I don't like their tech generally, but I really do like the Apple Pencil. It has no buttons on it, which I love. I don't use any of this, buttons on my stylus. They're just a hazard. They're just an opportunity to do something you didn't mean to do for me. And Procreate, anyway, has got a fanatical following, and you can do some really great stuff in it. I mean, they really focus on like natural media, watercolor or like Conte crayon or chalks or things like that. That really looks like you're working on paper. And Adobe Fresco, I think, is the answer to that because so many people just love, and they're almost worshipful over Procreate. And I have it, and I like it. It's just I don't like the iOS interface.
Well, from what I'm seeing from your screen, Fresco looks a lot like Photoshop.
Well, I'm not in Fresco right now. I'm in Clip Studio Paint.
Oh, okay. This is Studio Paint.
This is Clip Studio Paint. It used to be called Manga Studio.
Right.
Because it was
Manga Studio. Right.
Yeah, it was developed in Japan for manga artists, and then just a couple years ago, I think they changed the name in the United States to Clip Studio Paint.
Okay. It looks very Adobe. The UI. They're all kind of designing the same UI.
So here's what I'm talking about. Up in the upper right here, I'm on this ink layer. And there's neat things you can do with ink. Like because this is a vector, I can go to my eraser and I can just erase where the lines cross very cleanly. So that's a very handy thing, because I like to draw past where I mean the line to stop.
Yeah.
Oh, and the scroll wheel on the... Oh, let me drag this back over. Let's see. So this has a scroll wheel on it, and that's how I zoom in and out. It's not doing it now because I have the Zoom meeting selected instead of the Clip Studio Paint.
I know I think it might be Corel, they have like you can use the zooming with your two fingers and you can rotate your fingers as well. I get used to that.
Yeah, you can do that in Procreate and you can do that in Fresco. I can't do that here because, again, this Cintiq is not a touchscreen.
Okay. I've had students ask me, should I get a tablet or a thing? I said, hell yeah, do whatever it takes. It's not even an option. Usually I tell the students, whatever works for you. But when it comes to tablets and Cintiqs and drawing on the screen, it's like, hell yeah.
So I've heard that if you learn to draw before you learn to use a mouse, no, yeah. Oh, I forget how it goes now. Let's see. Something about, what you learn to do first. like I'm fine, with my hand one place and my eye someplace else, like drawing on a non-display tablet.
Mm-hmm.
That's no problem for me. It takes just a couple minutes to adjust from this.
Right.
But for some people, the whole idea of that is just anathema.
Mm-hmm.
To be looking one place and drawing in another, or seeing.
Yeah. That's why for me the vacuum Cintiq, the first time I used it, it was just like the light went down in my head. I visited the studio I used to work at, and one of the women there said, "You got to try this Cintiq." And I was a Luddite. I said, "Oh hell no."
I'll never use one of those.
Yeah, and it literally took me like 10 seconds, and I must have one, and I don't care how much. And it was the best thing I ever did, because it just transformed my head. So you can delete those lines now, the crossover you know.
Oh yeah, I'll do that.
That would speed up cleaning up a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to do the whole drawing first and then go through and just do a cleanup pass with that eraser.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right. So what are people obsessing over in the chat now? And by obsessing over, I just mean talking about. I don't mean to belittle anybody's interests. Oh, it looks like they're talking about beer.
Oh, good.
You don't drink, right?
No, I quit 10 years ago. Thank God. I think the lockdown would have been really, really tough. It's because I drink coffee now, and that's easy to stockpile. And you don't just enough of that's enough. You don't get drunk on it.
So, yeah, I've been drinking a lot more since this year. And in fact, when we hit 4 o'clock, which is 2 minutes from now, I'm going to crack open a beer. I have a convenience store at the bottom of the hill from where I live, and that's where I buy all my beer.
Mm-hmm.
And I never buy more than I'm going to drink in a day, so I have no stockpile.
Yeah. It's a good idea. I never had that power. I would always have, bottles backed up and yes.
Alrighty. So, oh yes, the eyebrows. They're totally shapeless at this point. Oh, another neat thing you can do with this is there's this set of tools here. You can adjust a line width, and you can thicken it or narrow it. Mm-hmm. So if I wanted, my outlines to be thicker than the others, which I typically do, then trace over the lines you want to be thicker, and look at that, they get thicker. So all kinds of fun stuff you can do when you're working as a vector layer, but it's not like Illustrator where you can't draw a fluid line in Illustrator. It's so gross.
It's a horrible program. It's if you're making like boxes of cereal, that's the kind of program you want the vector with. But it's yeah, and I haven't used Affinity. I think Affinity has like a Illustrator rival, which looks really nice if you're into vector art. But I've never. I used Affinity Photo, and the pressure sensitivity wasn't good, so I couldn't use that.
There's almost an infinity of videos and tutorials and articles about how to free yourself from Adobe. And Affinity Photo and Affinity Designer and DaVinci Resolve and Audacity, I guess, for audio editing.
Yes.
So really, it's Premiere and Adobe Audition, which keep me enslaved to the monthly payment.
Yeah. With me, it will be After Effects and primarily After Effects at this point. I bought the last CS 5.5, and I think CS 6 was the last one we could own outright. That's probably your best bet out of it. If you can settle yourself in for the feature set of CS 5.5 or CS 6 and you can buy one, then you can install it and you own the damn thing. But it's just not easy to find anymore.
Well, as I understand it, Adobe, they don't bother at all trying to crack down on people who are using pirated versions of their software that's more than like 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
So heck, I could use, Photoshop CS2 would probably support all my needs.
Yeah. No, I would definitely recommend that to anyone who's not going to just contracting their budget. I'd rather you keep your gym membership open or some local business going than feeding Adobe.
Yeah. So here's another neat thing you can do in these vector layers. So I'm gonna make a linear ruler here, and so I've drawn lines, but they're not ink lines. And then I can take the stylus, and draw a line and really press down or let up on it, and just have a varied line that's got some life to it. I mean, that's got too much life to it, that one, but it looks like a hand-drawn line, but it's perfectly straight. I love that. Let's see. What's happening here?
So if I see there's an animation tag there, so you can do like keyframe animations.
Unfortunately, Clip Studio Paint is like Photoshop in that it does 10 million times more things than I know how to make it do.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a whole suite of animation options, but I have not explored them.
Yeah, I do most of my animation in Photoshop now as a very primitive timeline feature. But once you work around the feebleness of it, you can make it work. It's a really nice way to draw because it's like classical animation. You're just drawing, and if you're comfortable drawing with Photoshop, you can use all your pre-existing brushes and tricks and things.
I've been wanting to, get conversant with some animation program, even if it's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried both of the Adobe versions. There's Adobe Character Animator and Adobe Animator. They're two different programs.
Yeah.
And they're both really clunky and finicky.
Yeah.
I had a very miserable time trying to climb both of those learning curves and failed both times.
Mm-hmm.
And I even had a teenager trying to help me on the second attempt. If a teenager can't do it, it's broken.
Yeah. No, those puppet systems, I'm tired of them. I think they all look the same. And I know they're economically they're necessary. But for me, if I ever do any big animation project again, I'd like to just hand draw the whole thing. Because too, when you draw by hand, it's your drawing coming to life. It's not a vector puppet being pushed around by a digital tween system.
I hear that. Although, do you know the animated series? It's on YouTube, but I think it's on broadcast TV as well. It's called How It Should Have Ended.
Yes.
So that looks like it's all probably Adobe Character Animator, which is all embedded inside of After Effects, actually. I mean, everything, that whole program, Adobe Character Animator, is also in After Effects. It's just buried in a bunch of menus.
Right.
But he does very expressive characters using that technology.
Yeah, you can do beautiful work with that, and people do, and I tried for years, and you get very good at whether you use a Flash or Harmony or whatever. But the bottom line is you're still using a digital tool that's making your artwork conform to the digital tool.
Yeah.
Rather than you having complete freedom. So if I sit down, say, with a sheet of paper and a pencil, and I draw, there's no intermediary between me and the image. So the closest I can come to that is Photoshop. I still have Photoshop between me and the animation, but it's such a piss poor animation tool that when you get animation working in it, I did that. That's not Photoshop. That's just
that's me animating in spite of Photoshop.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, I'm giving this program no credit at all.
Hey, I probably don't have permission to play it. I was going to put on your the music video that you did.
Oh, the Alan Parsons one.
Yeah, but I don't have. I'll get in trouble for playing the Alan Parsons.
You
music.
might. Yeah, that could be copyright. Yeah, that was great fun. Again, all animated in Photoshop. So it's called As Lights Fall, or As Lights Fail. Get it? If anyone, there's a YouTube, Alan Parsons, As Lights Fall, they should find it. Yeah, that was great fun.
So the battery in my TabMate just died. I'm searching around for another one. Yes, where are my batteries? I can't draw because the battery's dead. Hey Dermot, would you see if there's anything cool happening in the chat that we haven't acknowledged?
Oh.
All right. There we are.
Beer, IPAs, open up beers, things that we can pull and write. All time okay, Dermot, I feel like with the coffee man, 3 p.m. I have a full 16 hours. But yeah, coffee for me, it's the alcohol demon used to scratch the back of my neck around that time, and I thought, fuck this. So this is going to be my new coffee break, and it's great because I go up to the coffee shops on the street just up the road here, and there's a bunch of them. It became my daily. I really miss that ritual, just being able to go to a coffee shop and sit down for 2 hours and read a book. It was the one time I got out of the house, and I haven't been able to do that since March. So I'm an introvert, and I like the house, and I'm starting to like really feel frustrated. So outdoors people and extroverts must be really not enjoying it.
Yeah, the gym was my one expedition out of my apartment every day. So that's another reason why I miss it so. That was my coffee shop. Although I didn't do any work there. I mean, just physical work.
Well, there's a bit of chat here about whether the US will break up, one of my favorite topics. Jim D says, I doubt that. It'll split into gravel. 2 pieces is too reductionist. Actually, I doubt the US will do much splitting. The divisions are too artificial. As a replies, interesting, Jim. I never considered splitting into more than 2. Dan, yeah, let me consider that for a second. Yeah, I think it would. I think it would go like 4 or 5. Jim says there's ample room for a party to unite the progressive left with the progressive right. That would be interesting and dangerous, I guess, because then you have all kinds of weird things will happen. But yeah, like this consisting systems of. What's their common ground? Jim D says over the corpse of commercial media it could happen. It's true. Common ground, improving the lives and lifestyles of those who better ship them cash. Yeah, the thing is, any party that tried to do that would take such fire. But I think it would happen in the teeth of like a real economic crap show. Like it's happened in Ireland with Sinn Féin. I think we might have talked about this the last time. And I've been watching these nostalgia shows from Irish television, and they show like stuff from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And what's amazing is if any of the people in those shows could know what's happened in 2020, and essentially like Sinn Féin has emerged in Ireland, a party that not very long ago was blowing things up, like substantial parts of British cities, and now they're the biggest party in Ireland, 24% of the vote, and they're pushing 30% in the polls. They'll probably be the next government. And this is a party that was hated to a degree that, you know, if you think Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn were getting hate, nothing compared to what Sinn Féin took. But and I think it's just people are worn out. And people are worn out. You know, they will look for alternatives. But the thing is, the Irish electoral system is different from the American or the British, where you basically have a first past the post system, and that kind of works against third parties.
Right. So,
because you end up with this awful situation, you've got to vote for this guy or the other guy gets in. You lose your, like the Simpsons sketch, you can and quotas. And that's kind of the bind people end up. Instead of saying, you know what, I don't care about the bind, I'm breaking the bind. And I don't know what it's going to take for Americans to break the bind and vote for a third party and just say the hell with all of it. But that's kind of what the Irish electorate are doing. In Ireland, we can vote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if your bottom guy gets eliminated, that your fifth preference gets transferred, or your first preference, second, third, fourth, fifth. So you can vote however you like. Your vote will still be counted, and that enables small parties to grow.
Is that ranked choice voting?
Yeah, it's like a rank system, but it's transferred. We also have multiple seat constituencies. So you don't have like a district with one congressman. You've got a constituency with 3, 4, or 5 TDs. And if I could reform America with one stroke, I would say take your existing districts. I don't care if they're gerrymandered, and we'll combine 5 of them into one 5-seater.
Oh yeah.
And then we will allow people to vote one. You can have as many candidates as you like from each party or the parties, and then people can vote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 down the party line, down the list, and basically look what happens in an Irish election. And then you'll begin to have like libertarians, Greens, socialists, all kinds of weirdos, including scary ones. They'll all get in. But they'll be 2%, 3%, but they can begin to get like a foothold, a toehold then. And it would break the duopoly overnight. It really would. Within a couple of election cycles, the system would be unrecognizable. I don't see that happening. Essentially, I would turn the American system into the Irish. Yeah. But yeah, we had a duopoly for years, and then it cracked. In the last 12 years, it's just cracked. It's gone. And a lot of the older people are dying off now, and as they die off, the new younger people are all Sinn Féin. 40% of the young voters are Sinn Féin. It's just amazing. You just pinch yourself when you see it. It's just incredible to watch. So I don't know what, like the Sinn Féin leader, Mary Lynn O'Donnell, said this week, there'll be a unification of Ireland within 10 years. Like, time was when I would have said no way, but now I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't be sure. But I would say maybe 20. But yeah, it's astonishing when the change happens like that, how quickly it happens. Relative, like a decade would be enough to do it. So I would say like 10 years from now, 12 years from now, the system here could be unrecognizable.
Hopefully, unrecognizable for the better.
Yeah, I would hope for the better, but.
Alrighty. Now, one problem I have with Clip Studio Paint is I find myself, doing this coloring book action a lot, where I'm, rather than just selecting an area and dumping stuff into it, to fill a big area, I'm just by hand coloring in. Because if I were to just like create an area like this and then grab the paint bucket, actually it wasn't so bad this time, and there's just a little halo that I have to cover over.
Well, Rizek says, interesting. Only an Irishman can explain gerrymandering as a beneficial strategy if I understand the man speaks mega fast. I'll try to slow down. So what I'm saying is, let's say you've got all these awful gerrymandered districts. You just merge 5 of them into one big one.
Right.
And that flattens the gerrymandering. Your gerrymandering is now contingent on one district, one representative. But if you say take 5 of them, like 2 Democrat and 3 Republican, and you turn them into one district, make it a 5-seater, then and you have a single transferable vote, so you can vote in order of preference. The gerrymandering is now a dead letter. It's gone. And ideally, you would want to redistrict, but that's probably not going to happen. But in terms of like how few moving parts that would take, I don't think very many. It's just getting people used to voting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and not be just go in and vote for one. People would learn very, very quickly. Irish elections are great. They're a freaking hoot, and it's great when you see like the last seats being filled. They can come down to like 10 votes here, 50 votes there.
Oh wow! So it actually feels like your vote matters for something.
Oh, it does. So we had one former deputy prime minister re-elected by 4 votes once in 1992 or 87, and that was you're in recount actually. You do recount those, and they'll be arguing over things. There was a British election recently where again their system is different. They're awful, like single. They're just first past the post. But somebody had written on the ballot next to each candidate, bastard, 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 not bastard, 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 bastard. And the returning officer said, yeah, that's a legitimate vote, but the not bastard gets the vote because his intention is clear. With the Irish one, it can be tricky because you're writing by hand, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if somebody has sloppy handwriting, is that a 3 or a 5? Black and Galileo.
All right. What else we got going on in here? Paul says, I'm an Illustrator guy. Okay, so here we were just dumping on Illustrator guys.
No, it's a fine program for what it does. It's just, if you're trying to do like really fluid, natural drawing, it is not the tool for that. It's got its own look. And if I wanted to do vector work, my sister uses a lot, and I've seen her do it, and I just look at it and go, oh God, no. Like, to do any of the stuff I showed you from my collection, they're impossible.
Jim D says, sun's over the Yard somewhere on Earth, KMO. Jim, I'm going to crack open that first beer as soon as this last swallow of coffee is gone from my coffee cup. Let's see. Can't blame you, Les. Can't blame you. Okay, they're talking about beer. Les says, yeah, Jim, things are getting bad in Europe. Economically speaking, Europe is a basket case. Problem is that I think the U.S. will split in two, which won't be good for pensions. Oh, okay, this is the beginning of the America splitting up discussion.
Yes.
All right. So Ed is off. Let the dashing begin. Have a good weekend, everybody. Good luck, Ed. Safe passage. Matt Stoller. That's a name I recognize, but I can't say I know who it is. Jim asks, do you read Matt Stoller? So clearly I don't. He does a great job of pointing out monopolies in the States. He writes a column called Big, a book called Goliath. Dermot, did you hear about, what's his name, Glenn Greenwald leaving The Intercept?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Is that not insane? That, like,
yeah, crazy. It's crazy.
Glenn Greenwald at the, I'll call it a paper, but it's not a paper, but, at the publication that he created, is not allowed to criticize Biden.
Mm-hmm. Shocking. Yeah. And now the stories are coming out that, there is going to be an investigation. If he did nothing wrong, they have nothing to fear from reporting. It's just this absolute derangement syndrome. We had this chat 4 years ago with Trump was like becoming about all Hitler, and I think I said no. And, do you remember that time when Hitler lost an election and then cried like a whiny little down. Child?
Yeah. And complained about it and then conceded.
Yeah. I don't remember that either.
It's like the dumb Germans, all they had to do was vote him out. Why didn't they do that? Yeah.
And you can't be blaming the other side now for thinking that the Democrats cheated, because they spent the 4 years calling the man Hitler. Now, if you think the man is the second coming of Hitler and you didn't cheat in the election,
right,
then you have failed in your patriotic duty, because you should have been, and
exactly.
So either you were lying about him being Hitler, or you failed your patriotic duty and not cheating, or you're lying about cheating. There's no good option here. And so it's horrible. Just so tired of these two political parties, and I feel sorry for Americans that that's the best they got.
So, as you well know, it's been over 2 years now since I got kicked off of Facebook, and I don't miss it in the least, but there's constant pressure for me to get back on. And I just keep saying, no, I'm not going to get back on. I didn't divorce Facebook. They divorced me. And I'm not going to come crawling back to them after they destroyed, 10 years worth of content creation. I'd say at a keystroke, but I'm sure no human was even involved. I'm sure it was all algorithmic, all on automatic pilot.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not getting back on. But, Facebook owns WhatsApp and Instagram. And most of my social media activity these days is on Instagram. And it's all just visual media. There are no, nobody calling anybody a Nazi. That may go on that platform, but I just don't see it, because I'm just following artists and I'm just putting up artwork, and I'm not using it, like I used Facebook or like I used Twitter. and I'm happier. It's just
Yeah.
so much better to not be caught up in that bullshit.
My feed is mostly people whining about Trump or some other crap they can't change, or it's all thoughts and prayers basically, and anger.
Thoughts and prayers are useless, but not overtly harmful. Whereas, calling people that you have some minor disagreement with Nazis or racists and doing everything you can to get them fired or get them kicked off the social media platform they prefer, or deplatformed or denied a voice or whatever, whatever the current terminology is. I mean, I just don't see how anybody can fail to see how reprehensible that behavior is.
Yeah.
And, of course, their comeback will be, well, it's because I'm a white, straight, male, racist Nazi.
Yeah.
That's why that's the only reason one would dissent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's an argument that's just not worth having. Like, I'll be dipped in shit before I get into a public contest where I'm trying to establish that I'm not a racist.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody wants to call me a racist in a public discourse, the only response they'll get from me is "fuck you" and "choke on a bag of dicks." Go away from me.
Yeah.
I have nothing to say to you.
Yeah, it staggers me that people who spend so much time telling one another rightly, gender is a construct, race is a construct, etc., will then call you a cis white hetero male.
Yeah.
They don't see that they've just flipped from nominalism to realism within the same 5 seconds, and that's a major philosophical problem. And in academic terms like that, it sounds funny enough, but I think in practical terms, if your brain works like that, I think it can drive you crazy, because these are two different conceptual systems, and these people might not have the language to know what they're doing to their minds, but their subconscious must be just reeling down there. And I'm not saying that these are possible to reconcile. I would regard myself as nominalist most of the time, but sometimes I'll slide into realism, but at least I freaking know it. And it's like, okay, that kind of contradicts that. But if you're just doing it just because, and you can tell the trigger too, they do it when they can punish somebody.
Yes, exactly.
That's the thing. They're doing it when, I want to hurt this guy, so now I flip to that. I'm going to be a nominalist because now I can puff myself up, and I'll be a realist when I can beat that guy in the face. And it's horrible. This is horrible to see. I was hoping that was something my book could deal with, but I think that they would provoke a reaction, because when, in Jungian terms, when you step on someone's complex, they complex out, and then you're being attacked not by a human being, you're being attacked by a complex.
Say more about that. I'm not really familiar with that terminology.
Yeah, Jung said a complex was, if I remember the definition, a cluster of emotions and feelings centered around a theme or a subject. So a person could have a money complex, a power complex, a father complex, a mother complex, a bully complex, or what have you. We all have different complexes. And the problem is that if the complex, if somebody has a victim complex, they've been victimized, they've been bullied, if that gets triggered, to use their language, then they complex out. The complex, their anger and their rage just picks up. And a Jungian, John Betts, that I was listening to, said, and if it happens to a person with love, it's horrible to watch because that person is gone. And now you're just dealing with the angry complex. And you have to wait for the complex to burn itself out before you can deal with the person. And shortly after, about a week after I heard that, I was in an exchange with some woman on Facebook, and I could tell she had complexed out. The way she was writing was very dramatic and emotional, and not really exactly following what I was saying. And I backed off very quickly, and I wouldn't have, if I hadn't heard, I might have gone for her if I had, just gotten angry myself. Sorry about it, I have a singing cat. He's wonderful, but he's loud. And so I said, no, I didn't want to cause you any offense. I can tell I've done it. And our mutual friend then saw the interaction the next day, and she PM'd me and said, yeah, her son was an evangelical Christian who became an atheist and then committed suicide. And we were talking about atheism, religion and stuff. And she said, you handle it very, very well. And really, all kudos for that doesn't go to me, it goes to the Jungian analyst who made me conscious of the fact that I wasn't talking to a person anymore. I was talking to her context. And she's a lovely person, and she's not grieving her dead son. And it's just that's, and I think a lot of people are in that kind of fight or flight mode on social media without knowing it. You see these comments and emails and things. Oh God, I hope this is the case. So I hope, I'm sure subsequent to that I have gone and been mean to people that I've maybe shouldn't have, but I just think it's a feature of social media now. It's just built into it.
So something that I've learned to do on social media, which I wish I'd learned many years earlier, was just, when I see that I'm getting into a, hostile exchange with somebody I don't know, just stop. Just pull back and do not continue because there's nothing to be gained.
Yeah.
They're never going to see you as a human being. There's nothing you can do to make them see you as a human being. And, they're just not going to, they're not going to behave. They're not going to behave ethically or honestly or, with intellectual honesty, a concept which I think is largely, Greek to so many people. Like the whole notion of intellectual honesty is completely anathema to the corporate media right now. So they're certainly not going to give any airtime or a fair break to anybody who invokes the concept. Alrighty. Nope. Well, you know what? I have an easy fix for that. All right. So Dermot, I have gotten up repeatedly over the course of this conversation and moved around, and it seems like you've been like present at your computer and at the microphone the whole time.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm sitting on the bed, so it's kind of comfy. Got the cat behind me.
Okay. So, everybody that I invite onto this live stream, I mean, I'd love to have you here the whole time, absolutely. But, there's a big difference between a 45-minute podcast interview and 3 hours sitting here on a live stream.
Jeez.
So you are welcome to check out anytime you like, but I'm not urging you toward the door.
I do a coffee run. I recommend anyone into coffee. Mocha pots are the best.
Mocha pots?
Hexagonal. Mocha, M-O-K-A. They're great. They make a really nice cup of coffee. Treat, especially if you're making them from home.
Interesting. I've never heard of that.
Paul's heading that. Good to see you too, Paul.
Oh, right. Oh, wrong one. Come on. All right, I'm going to have a look at the chat here in just a second. All right, let's see what we got. What do we got? All right, this coffee is cold. The cream has congealed on the surface. It's going in the sink. It's time for a beer.
Tricky with the lag. It's doing two things at once.
Alrighty. Everybody.
So with the lag, you were drawing while you were away from the screen. That was very strange. I wish I could do that.
I wish I could do that. Yes, that would be awesome. It's like, Cintiq, here's what I have in mind. You've got 2 hours. I'm going to the bar. Send me a text when you're done. Or, send me a screenshot. Let's see. I am grabbing the Zoom window. I'll drag it over here. We'll make it full screen. And the weekend begins now. That's right, Mocha. As usual, no beer for you.
What's your cat's name? Mocha?
Mocha, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mocha, you may have heard of her. She's three-legged. She got shot. But at this point, she's 15. She's been a three-legged cat for a decade. She was only a four-legged cat for 5 years, so I don't think she has any concept of her fourth limb, or missing limb. Alrighty, exit full screen. Drag you over to the other monitor. All right, what do we got in the chat here? Kamo, could you put the drawing? Could you put the drawn you with the easel shot of the photo within the easel shot of the photo, and then you have the drawn you working on another drawn you? Oh, I get what he's saying. Yeah, I could. In fact, I will. That's a cool idea. So, before we get there, on our background tones layer. All right. So, Dermot, what is your closest thing you have to a day job these days?
I'm still just doing courses for lynda.com and for LinkedIn Learning. One reason why I want to be careful of what I say is somebody got the wrong end of anything I said. Now it's like, they go after the corporate end of it.
Yeah.
I think that would go nowhere, but still, I do that. Well, if you're not going to say anything bad, who are you? So ask Glenn Greenwald. So it's
fired.
It's about that.
Not fired, but forced out of his own paper, basically.
Paper, yeah. For just doing journalism. He's not like a Nazi. I think we can establish Glenn as whatever we think about Glenn, he's not a fucking evil person or anything. So no, just that, and we do these weekly courses, so they keep on coming. And the latest batch I'm doing, I don't know if I should talk about them or not, because I can actually. They're like doing.
Nobody watches these. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, they're about doing period styles of animation. So the latest batch I'm doing, which will be going up in my weekly series, will be how to do like 1980s TV type shows like Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. So, because that's a particular style and frame rate and aspect ratios. It goes into some of the nuts and bolts. So I've made my own fictional character that I'll show how to animate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually got it to look. It looks like it's a 1980s hand-drawn Saturday morning cartoon called Santa Claus. Santa Claus with a big claw, and it's a stupid idea. And I was thinking, this is pretty stupid, but it's not as stupid as some of the actual things I worked on. The stupidest thing I ever worked on in the 1980s was a French TV show about babies in heaven. And I don't know if they were babies who were waiting to be born or babies who had died, but the babies would drive around heaven in little cars. And we got some freelance scenes to do. I'm like, okay, I'll take 3 scenes and make a few £100. And by God, that was dismal. And yeah, some of the projects that get shopped around are just bizarre. So anyway, that's the latest thing. I'm hoping to pitch more courses to them. But I worry too. Like if I get sick, it's nice if I get as many of these things in the library as possible. So
yeah, because the royalties, it's passive income.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I have the luxury of getting sick, and at least I know that the royalty checks will keep coming in. But I'd like them to be as high as possible, so that if I did have to convalesce for 3 months or 6 months, like my nightmare scenario wouldn't be dying necessarily, it would be being a long hauler, and I'm just dealing with that kind of
being a long hauler. What does that mean?
Like people who get COVID, but there are like months and months of like recovering from the symptoms, and like low energy and all the rest of it. Like, it sounds like a nightmare.
It's kind of like chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I'm fatigued already, so I don't need to be more fatigued than I already am.
Well, I don't know if you know, but I'm about 6 months into testosterone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
Which has just been amazing. I feel so much better than I did before.
Okay.
So I'm a pretty unabashed booster for it at this point.
Okay. So you just had naturally low levels in yours?
I got tested before I went on, and my levels were, what are considered normal.
Yeah.
But I felt like shit, and I don't know what my levels are now, but I feel great. So, the fact that, normal medicine, because, it's prescribed to me, but it's prescribed by a doctor who's never met me. I mean, I just describe symptoms, over the phone.
Yeah.
And my local, what access I have to medical care locally, they don't approve. But, so what? They can't really do anything about it. But, yeah, I feel great. And, as far from fatigued as I've been, oh, shit, I just lost all that. There it is. In, I don't know, 15, 20 years. And it's weird because the psychological effects are the first things to kick in.
Yeah.
Yeah, long before you notice anything physically, you'll notice you just feel better. But I think we've got an epidemic of low testosterone in men. A lot of it is environmental, I think. It's a lot of, endocrine disruptors just in the environment.
Right.
Phthalates from plastics and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's the other thing about getting back to Mars, like fucking soil's full of perchlorate. It's horrific. Yeah.
Although
the regolith.
Yeah, there is no soil. Regolith. Good catch. Let's see. Here's something I like to do. There's all these cross-hatching patterns that I could never do by hand. I mean, like this stuff. And they're pretty in your face when you just drop them down into a layer like this. But then just, take down the opacity. Come on.
Also, Leslie asks, what's my name mean? Actually, the original Irish name is Dermot, and I think it translates into free from envy.
Free from what?
Envy.
Oh, wow. If it's true, good for you. Is it true? Are you free from envy?
I think so. Yeah. I don't go around like a friend as well. I don't like Orbidal said for him to be happy was necessary for his friends to fail. And I never understood that. Like, wouldn't you be happy for your friends to succeed?
No.
The Irish are infamous for the national vice of begrudgery, which is
begrudgery.
God, and then people say everyone is that. Like, no, the Irish will begrudge things that you wouldn't comprehend at all. So I don't think I have much begrudgery, and it might be for a particular case perhaps, but not in general.
What do you want, Kat? All right. So here I'm going to do Jim's request or his suggestion, I'll say. Copy the whole image. No, wrong layer. Let's try again. Copy the layer. And we'll paste it. And down, 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 down. And sure, for now, it's fine. All right. Okay, how much to twist it? I'm definitely going to have to cheat here. Now, every now and again, I find myself longing for some access to some Photoshop functionality. Like, you can't easily skew and distort things here in Clip Studio Paint, or if you can, I don't know how. I should always emphasize that I don't know everything about this program. Do I want the eyes actually showing on the screen or not? Put the eyes behind the hand. What, cat? I honestly don't understand what it is you want. We go through this all day.
Oh yeah.
She meows, I speak to her in English. She meows, I speak back in English, and we just don't seem to get anywhere. It's as if I'm talking to myself, cat. All right.
So you can't skew that?
I've got to be able to somehow.
Have you tried the usuals like Control Alt or Shift? Normally, that's the.
What's the Photoshop default quick key for that?
Control. If you pick
Alt Control.
Yeah.
Okay. Get out of this and try Alt Control. Nothing. Let's see. Oh, I've deselected. Well, let's try it again. Alt Control. Nope.
Option. You're on a Mac?
I'm not on a Mac. No, I'm on a Microsoft Surface Pro 5.
Yeah, Control Alt. Our combinations there, all could be any two of them.
Ah, here's an idea. What if I just delete this layer? Delete layer. And I'll delete that one. And we'll just save this and we'll take it on over into Photoshop. Oh, actually, I think I need to export this as a PNG. And we'll put it in, yeah. Miscellaneous, right.
Back in a second.
Right, over here. All right. Okay, and launch Photoshop. While that's loading, Photoshop, go to the other screen, please. No, it's not going to. Okay. There we are. Nope. There. All right. Where'd I put it? All right. Babies in heaven, holy hell, Dermot. I remember that testosterone has a big impact on dopamine and serotonin levels. So here's the funny thing. When I was thinking about getting on testosterone and then once I was on it, but I wasn't feeling the effects yet. I was reading up on stuff like that, like obsessively. And then once the good effects started to kick in, I didn't care. I didn't care how it worked or why. And I moved on to other things. Bisphenol A from all those plastic bottles. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
All right. So, Dermot, what do you see on screen now?
So I see your Clip Studio Pro. You don't have the distorted thing under it yet.
Oh, so that's the lag. No, I have the document open in Photoshop now.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So,
Oh, I just. Okay. But that lag is pretty bad. So you just open Photoshop.
oh, huh. But now my tab mate doesn't work, so I can't easily zoom in and out. Let's see. Magnifying glass. All right, and then. All right. Tabmate still doesn't work. How many times will I do that before I realize it doesn't work? All right. And Dermot, you still there?
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, great. Well, why didn't that work? Huh. Ah, it did work. Okay. So, just need to shrink that whole thing a bit. What am I doing? I need to. All right, now help me out here. Should I rotate it at all, or should I just grab these control points and start?
First thing I would
distorting
do would be do as much as you can with the basic rotation
All right.
and stretching before you begin to distort it. And either could work, but I think that's usually my workflow. Wouldn't be much though. If it's fairly straight on, I think probably like a simple skew might be in there.
Let's see.
Wow. 20 years old. Come here.
Jim, it was a good idea. Not sure I'm pleased with the results. Well, let's try that. And
Oh, I would make this a smart object first. That way, as you distort it and skew it, you won't get pixels.
ah,
That way you can size it and resize it a lot smarter. I mean, I think if you're just doing like a one-time operation, it doesn't matter, but you're going to be, going back and forward a little bit.
yeah, I think I'm going to leave it like this.
Yeah.
And mainly because this live stream and this drawing are done in 9 minutes, come hell or high water.
Okay.
So let's, whoops, wrong layer. Just gonna darken the Cintiq border here. Oh gosh. How does one do that in Photoshop? It's over here in image, isn't it? Yeah. Oops. The tab mate still doesn't work. How many more times will I pick it up and try to zoom in? There we go. Alrighty. You know, I'm because this is for the Geb website, I'm going to bill for this. And I do believe this represents the first time I've ever drawn a self-portrait for which I will be paid. No paying client has ever been interested in a drawing of me before. Alrighty.
I've been toying with the idea a while back of keeping able to do it, just to like do some recordings of myself drawing. This is the first time I've actually ever done it live, just as a way of like teaching students to like a series of how I tackle designs and drawing issues. It's definitely a bit trickier though to talk and draw.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's usually when I don't have anybody else here in the Zoom call to talk with, these live streams are just me occasionally looking over at the chat, but mostly the people in the chat just occupying themselves, keeping each other company.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Les says, I'm always happy for my friends. In fact, I want everyone else around me to be better. As long as I don't pull the too much down, it's the best way I can move myself up as a human being. No envy. Although I've caught myself jealous recently. A friend of mine passed a test I have not yet. I feel ashamed for it, but I'm glad I caught it. Be envious of your enemies, not friends. Right, Jim. Maybe the only way to reach a modicum of homeostasis in today's world isn't so much as to avoid such things as bisphenol A, but to add measures to counteract such toxins as latter mentioned. Jim D says, I don't know, banning works pretty well as long as there are options. Yeah, Big Pharma is predicated on adding something. Jim D says, adding something patented, that is. It doesn't exist if you can't profit from it. Yes, thus the decades-long war on marijuana. Among many other things. Jim D writes, there is that, or we could just ban stuff and get back to stuff known not to cause, testicular shrinkage and the like. True. But now, Jim, didn't you know, this is Les, they're starting to patent things they never created, existed in nature, only discovered. They're starting to patent genes. It's like finding a new species of lion and then saying you own all lions. Madness. Jim D says, gene patenting is the first thing we ban, absolutely, forever. I think we should ban all patents on software, personally. Jim D. Yeah, the off-square frame in the start complicated the thing. Nah, I think we got it. I think the final arrangement communicates the idea that I'm drawing the picture that I'm in. Les says, I think COVID did a real good thing. I think it'll backfire and screw the bastards that started this fiasco. I've never seen so many organic-based and holistic-based biotech companies IPO before. Ah, interesting. As well as logistics companies, miscellaneous tech companies, and actually, to be honest, a new generation of companies that won't do us good, but like Ed mentioned before, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So goes the cha-cha. Cha. Jim D says, both paid and self-referential. Booyah. Les says, Jim, where are you from again? Jim is in Seattle, in the northwest corner of the country. Never been. I lived there for... I think I lived in Seattle proper for just like 3 years, but I lived in that part of the country for 6 years. Jim D. Lessick says, never been. Jim says, lots of clouds. Oh my God. Months and months and months of clouds and very little daylight like we get here in the winter months. Les says, subtropical ocean-based climate. I'll visit someday. It is so gorgeous. Go in August. You will be astounded.
Beautiful place.
Oh my goodness. Have you been out to the Hoh Rainforest on the Olympic Peninsula?
I don't think so.
So, you know, Seattle is on the west side or the east side of the Puget Sound. So the west side of the Sound is the Olympic Peninsula. And the Olympic Peninsula is divided north and south by the Olympic Mountains. So on the west side of the mountains, you've got all this moist air coming off the ocean, hitting the mountains, condensing into rain, and falling as rain. And so on the west side of the mountain range, you have the only rainforest in the United States, or in mainland United States. There's a rainforest in Puerto Rico. But on the east side of that same mountain range, there's a rain shadow where they get very little rain. And so you can go to like the national park administered tourist information centers and see images of the same species of tree west and east of the mountains. You know, west of the mountains, they're enormous. You know, they're like not quite the sequoias, but they're huge. And the very same species of tree on the other side of the mountain is this twisted little bonsai thing, you know, which because it doesn't get any water.
Right.
Jim D says, no, we're a moderate marine climate. I drove boats for 15 years around here, colder. I misspoke. Thank you for the correction. All right. Jim D says, the peninsula. My ancestors settled there after fleeing Germany and Ireland. I lived there for a couple years. I lived in Port Ludlow. And the great thing about driving from Seattle out to the Olympic Peninsula is there's a non-trivial chance that you'll get stuck in a long line waiting to cross a drawbridge. And the drawbridge is there to let the nuclear, you know, boomer submarines in and out of their out of the Olympic Peninsula. They've got their base down in the very southern end of the Puget Sound. And to get out to the open ocean, they have to go under this bridge. And they're too big to get under the bridge without the bridge opening up. And it takes them a long time. So many's the time I've been dead tired trying to get home out to the Olympic Peninsula and just sitting in this huge long line of cars while a nuclear submarine very slowly moves under the bridge. It's exciting the first 2-3 times it happens, and thereafter it's like, ugh. Again. Seattle's, let's see, 2 different mountains. What do we got here? Yes, Oregon, Washington has a desert east of the mountains. Yeah, we've got, 2 mountains. The Olympic Range out on the Olympic Peninsula and the Cascades more inland. And yeah, to the east of the Cascades is the high desert. And man, there's nothing happening out there. Except the Gorge in George, Washington. Great concerts there. Let's see, there's a great river there. I forgot the name. But it's been dammed and the salmon can't get to their spawning place. Tridents, yeah, those are the submarines. Cool watching them cross. Yeah, like I say, cool the first couple times. You don't want to live on the far side of the bridge that they have to get under, though. The Elwha, probably, I guess, says Jim.
No, the Elwha dams were taken down.
Oh, they were?
Yeah. And there's a fantastic documentary on that. I think it's on Amazon Prime. I think that's where I saw it. I really recommend it. It's so rare that you see an environmental documentary that's really uplifting and that actually shows how they work with the Native Indians and Native Americans, whatever you want to call them, to get the dams taken down. And I really wish more environmentalists would focus on fights that can be won like that, rather than global systemic ones like global warming. I hate to break it to them, you can't win that. But you could do a lot to take down these bloody dams. And the dams are also a huge source of greenhouse gases. The methane builds up behind the dam. So now it's spectacular what happened there.
So yeah, I'm looking at the entry for it on Amazon, Return of the River. Documentary infused with hope. Return of the River explores the unlikely victory of an environmental justice for environmental justice and restoration. The film follows a group of committed tribal members and activists who attempt the impossible, to challenge the public opinion of a town and eventually the nation to bring down 2 dams. Ultimately, the community comes to consensus, launching the largest dam removal in history.
Oh, it's amazing, yeah, how they do it.
And it's only 1 hour and 11 minutes, so it's not a huge commitment.
Hmm.
Oh, wow.
It's beautiful as well. Just watching it, it's if you like seeing stuff blow up, you know.
Who doesn't like to watch stuff blow up?
Yeah. So the Army Corps of Engineers went in and I think took it out.
Nice. All right. And I see there's this watch party link. Watch and chat with others as you watch it. Oh, interesting. Let's see. Alrighty. Well, hey, Dermot, it is 5:02 p.m. You have accompanied me the full distance. I appreciate it.
That's fun. Yeah, I haven't live streamed before.
I do it every day. Well, Monday through Friday. And really, I mainly do it just to keep me honest about how much time I actually spend here at the drawing station.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to spend 0 minutes of 0 hours daily drawing.
Yeah.
Until the night before the deadline, and then drawing for 14 hours straight and feeling just.
My last batch of courses for Linda, I cut it down to the hour. I was very irresponsible.
Ugh. So Jim D says they are now letting the accumulated silt flow out. The Elwha used to have 50-pound plus salmon.
And the beach came back, like the original beach had been washed away because, of course, the river was dead. And after the silt came back down, the beach was just almost overnight. Like gigatons of silt were deposited.
All right. Well, hey, I'm going to shut down the stream. But Dermot, thanks again, man. Would you be interested in coming back and doing this again?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is fun.
Right on. All right. We'll make it happen.
Great.
All right. Ending the call. Here we go.
Okay.
And the live stream is still going, so that's a different window. All right, everybody, I'm going to hit stop. I'll be back here on Monday. Hope to see you then. Or, at least see evidence.